Where is it? Oh, come on. There you go. Oh my goodness. Ooh. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. What's up, guys? Let me just ping the Discord real quick. Streaming. There we go. All right. What's up, guys? Oh, dude. Oh, there's so many things. I like got a notification on Twitter that's like or on Discord that's like, "Oh, Half-Life 2 is free now." I'm like, "Uh-oh, it's happening." Look, all all the episodes in one. They I think they took episode 1 and 2 off the Steam store and just combined it into Half-Life 2. And Half-Life 2 is free for a bit. What's up, guys? It's good to see you. Thanks. Oh, dude. And there's extras? What do you mean? Oh, let me see. Classic effects? Field of view, put that to 90. Make sure this is all the way up. And I don't think, so it doesn't look like there's an option, but it seems like maybe, the full dynamic range is here. So the UI looks slightly better to the eyes, you know? Oh my goodness, why did it? They're so small. Is it because of the field? Wait, does the field of view change that? Hold on. That can't be right. Okay, no. I was about to say. Oh my goodness. Can y'all hear me, by the way? Forgot to ask that. Also, I put it on low latency instead of ultra low. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. Dude. And enable... Oh, they added commentary nodes to Half-Life 2. And they put Lost Coasts! A workshop! Workshop support for Half-Life 2! Yo. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Half-Life 2 is a workshop now. And Minerva Metastasis is on the workshop now. Yo! So it's for every single Half-Life 2. Oh, for Half-Life 2 and Episode 1 and 2, it has workshop support now. Oh my goodness, I don't have to go to Game Banana and do that annoying crap for like most of the mods. I didn't mean for it to load. Okay. Oh, and it changed maps. Okay, that's sick actually. Oh. Okay. There's a lot. A bit loud? What's a bit loud? Me or the game? And they deleted my Half-Life 2. Did you open Half-Life 2? Because I got a bunch of achievements when I opened Half-Life 2 from episode 1 and 2. So they may have you may just have to reopen it and it should add it back. Dude, this is so cool. This is so cool. Oh my goodness. That's so awesome. And they added all the screenshots for or a bunch of screenshots from episode 1 and 2 in the on the Steam page as well. Oh, okay. What? Hold on. There's Steam notes and I just saw a like new Half-Life 2 promotional art. Hold on. I gotta look at all of these. Let me change my screen. Did they add music to the? Oh no, that's the Steam page. Okay. Be quiet. There you go. Change the screen. Steam. Come on, there it is. All right, good. Episode 1 and 2 are in the box. Deliver commentary for Half-Life 2. Integrated workshop support. Bug fixes and new graphics options. Visual pops, missing sprites, and mismatched lighting introduced in updates over the years have been scrubbed away. We've added some settings to push the visual fidelity of Half-Life 2 farther than was allowed in the original release. There's even a documentary, which we will look at that in a second. Uh, Raising the Bar is set to return in 2025 with the expanded second edition, offering a comprehensive look in the creation of Half-Life 2, along with never before seen concept art from Episode 1 and Episode 2, and ideas and experiments for the third episode that never came to be. To everyone who's played Half-Life 2 over the last 20 years, thank you. From now through the weekend, Half-Life 2 is now free to own. 3.5 hours of developer commentary. Episode 1 and 2, Lost Coast, Steam Workshop support, Steam game recording gameplay events and phases, fix issues causing props. Let's see. Grass detail sprites, okay. Classic effects. Oh, so you can add the classic fire and blood. Oh, okay, that's cool. Add support for radial fog. I don't know what that means. Specular has been adjusted. Dated models for the crossbow and RPG to support ultra wide. Oh, okay. Camera clipping. Lambda cache indicators. UI scaling. Dude. Is this normal Half-Life 2? Yeah, it's normal Half-Life 2. Just update Half-Life 2 on Steam. There's a bunch of map updates. Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2 Deathmatch? Did they add that? Why are they... What's with the... Did Half-Life 2 Deathmatch get an update? It did. Fix player model selection in the options menu. Fix da da da. Okay. It's not like a big update, so I was kind of hoping they'd put like add like more maps, but that's still cool. Other previous version of the game has been archived to a publicly visible beta branch containing neat Steam legacy. We're reducing the visibility of standalone versions on the Steam Store. The old standalone applications remain available, Sure, community projects that rely on them still function properly, but they will now appear within the tools menu of your Steam library. Look at this promotional art. This is a new Half-Life 2 promotional art. This has to be. It looks like they even brought out like the old model that they used for it. Is this still made by oh, what's his name? And and this is the first time Gravity Gun has appeared in official promotional art. I just realized that. I need the full of this. It's probably on the website. Okay. Let me open the website. Just give me a second, guys. All the Half-Life games in general are on sale as well. Like the expansions of Half-Life 1 are like less than $1. Is there a full Is there a where's the page? Half-Life 2? 20th anniversary. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let me put it on the other screen. And I saw a lot of videos uploaded to Valve, including uh, like beta stuff and the documentary. Dude, 23 clicks Philip videos on this. I crowbar. I bet that's the Half-Life Alyx crowbar. Very cool. Dude, this is sick. This is really high res too. Oh my gosh. Where is that gravity gun model from? Where is this 3D? This is definite, like, this has to be a 3D model that's painted over, right? Like the rest of this? Like, these are very clearly, this is like the Half-Life 2 Survivor model or whatever reference model they use. And this is obviously a Half-Life 2 Alyx model. This gravity gun model is really stinking high quality. Like, it's more high quality than, like, both of these models combined. Like, as far as graphical fidelity. Where, where is this model from? This is not the view model either. I'm going insane. Is that yours? No. I don't even know what you're talking about. The gravity gun or the Gordon or no, it's not either. It's not the brush trigger model. This is definitely the reference model they've been using. There's the documentary. We'll take a look at that in a second. Oh my gosh. Animated Combine Soldier. They have a what? Is that a mod Valve created? Just like a some Half-Life 1 replacements? I like that. There's a really bad delay. There's the original advisor. Here's the E3 stuff. We built this demo to bring E3 a year earlier, and then decided the last minute we weren't ready to show the game 20 years later. We're okay with you seeing this stuff. Oh, that's cool. I'm getting these when these come out. I'm getting these. I already saw that. Oh my goodness, are these the highest qualities of these pictures? Have we? How do I back out of this? I don't know how to. I don't know how to exit this. Oh, what happened? How do we go back? Oh, let me try F11. There you go. I don't know if we've gotten this high res of these before. I hope they're not upscaled. That would annoy me. I know they did that with the Half-Life 1 wallpapers, and I did not care for that. I don't even remember this one being this HD. Look at the water droplets. I didn't even realize what? I feel like if it was upscaled, you wouldn't see the grain from like the scans of it, you know? Oh my goodness. Here's a zoom in on this. Gordon looks a little odd here. I'm not sure if this is drawn by the same guy. I'm really curious about this 3D model. This is still cool though. Alex's hair is kind of different. I think that's her beta hairstyle or her like launch day look. You know, when it was kind of more blocky. Oh man. Wow. Yeah, I think these are the highest res and they're not even upscaled. Good, if they're not. I do not need AI upscaling on my Valve wallpapers. Cool. G-Man wearing a red tie, I noticed in that one. Oh my goodness. Wait, have we seen all these? I feel like we've only seen, I don't remember, I don't know if this is in Raising the Bar. Oh my goodness. That's like that's like the Combine Suppressor in Half-Life Alyx. The body armor is almost exactly the same. What? Have we seen these? This seems new. Like I've definitely not seen that before. Oh my goodness. Maybe some upskilling on this one. This one seems like it's been smoothed out a bit. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it has, because I remember, yeah, because I remember there was anti-aliasing still showing up on like the glasses, and they're kind of smooth. So that's unfortunate. I think they did upscale some of these. That's kind of lame. Oh, I've not seen this. I don't know if that's new. That's awesome though. Whoa, new phone wallpaper, man. I don't know if we've seen this either. Like those burned buildings. How's it going? It's going good. Wallpapers might have been touched up by an artist, maybe. Oh, I have not seen this either. That's a sick wallpaper. HD Combine poster? Super realistic dove. That's so surreal. I don't think this Metro Cup has been this HD either. Dang. I think I've seen this one before, but definitely not this high quality. You never know, because a lot of the ones I see are like off Google Images, so they always get compressed like crazy. I guess they put all the soundtracks on every. Ha! What? Where are you going? What happened? Oh my god. That's awesome. Oh, and you can. I like that. Okay, let's look at the documentary. I need to see this. Okay. Oh my goodness. I can't wait. 2 hours? I forgot how long the other one was. How long was the other one? Hold on. Half-Life 1 dot. That was an hour. This one's 2 hours. This one's 2 hours. We're not even gonna get to the dev commentary yet today.
I always had been doing since my childhood a bit of urban exploration. So I love to like break through a window of an abandoned factory or
Half-Life 2
building or
real.
train station. So that's one of my hobbies used to be. What's on the roofs of buildings? You know, what's in an abandoned building cellar and in a factory? We did a lot of work on this.
That's neat. I'm guessing that's the
At
place
the
he
time when
referenced
I
a lot for
did
the
my
Half-Life
first
2.
photo shoot of the Austerlitz station, it was under construction. But then there was no security guards,
So
no fences. Even you can just walk and
is this Victor Antonov talking? I can't remember. He's the environment artist, right? Concept
see
artist?
the broken textures and layers of paint and brick and history. And it was
Oh my
just so
gosh.
cool that I
They
could
just
get
look like
and get this
Half-Life 2 for real
information
life.
before it got overbuilt with a new neighborhood. I went to check it out last night, and it happens to be completely destroyed and under construction again.
Oh,
And it just
that sucks.
goes back
Yay,
literally,
Victor Antonov.
coincidentally, to the exact same state where I shot it 25 years ago, actually.
Okay. You know what? Special occasion. Give me a second, guys. Oh, my room is a mess, but Uh, isn't it working? Hello? Give me a second. Do I have to like remake the thing? Oh, there we go. Wow, that can see a lot. I can see a lot more than I thought it would. Give you a second. Let's make this a lot smaller. There we go. I guess it would have to be on this side since I'm facing this way. What's up, guys? Can I do this a way where it's like facing my ceiling for the most part? I hate the cord on this camera because it's always like... What's up? Okay. I feel like the PNG tuber couldn't cut it as far as the reaction goes. So cool. I like the cinematic stuff they're putting in the intro here. Half-Life 3. So true.
So one of the big challenges with Half-Life was just establishing the company and sort of determining whether or
forgetting
not we could actually
Gabe
make
Newell's
video
got
games
that like
at all.
slick back haircut
My
now.
background was operating systems and spreadsheets. Mike Harrington, who was the co-founder, had a similar background. He had a little more game experience than I did. But with Half-Life, we were pretty sure we were going to fail. And then Half-Life was successful. It was like a lot more successful than we had any reason to expect. And now we had to follow it up, right? We didn't want to have a sophomore slump. We didn't want to be a one and done kind of company. So now we had the terrifying obligation to our customers and to our fans to somehow advance our game design skills, our technology, all needed to level up for the second game.
I'll try to skip them
I think
whenever
a
they
bunch of us
appear.
were really shocked by the
Apologies for that.
success of Half-Life 1. We were this young, unproven company. I don't think any of us really knew what to expect when we finished the game. I remember when we started working on Half-Life 2, we had already set the bar pretty high for ourselves.
So during Half-Life 2, what we were really trying to do is take advantage of the visibility that Half-Life had created for us in the industry.
So glad they still have
continue
Half-Life.
to
Yeah,
hire
me
the best
too.
people that we could find in the world. It just got easier. The bar didn't get any lower, but the fact that we had, it went from, hey, this weird dude who worked on operating systems wants to convince you he can run a game company, to, oh, Half-Life won a bunch of awards, and now they're working on a sequel to that.
It was either my first week or my first day was actually the going
Can't say the
great party
same for TF2.
Mike Harrington.
I got
the
some people
co-founder.
working on TF2.
Yeah, I came to Valve when it was just tiny. We had, I think, or maybe 10 or so people. Dave and I grew up together.
That's
in
the,
Indiana, so he and
the
I had always
pictures
talked
of
about
the
maybe
guy
starting
that's,
a game company at some point.
Whatever
And
the icon is in the
during Half-Life, that
modding
kinda
tools,
changed to
the obsolete
maybe instead
picture.
of that, the dream could be you come and work here at this one, with me.
Yeah, and I interviewed the day that Half-Life went gold, and I took the team.
TF2 Doc next.
Yeah, there's like an old photo of us. We
Don't say that
broke up
happening.
the paper mache head crab and everything.
Yeah, I was freaking out.
Yeah.
I was actually working on a video game concept in high school, and I was seeking a mentor, and I got in touch with
Mark
Mark
Laidlaw.
Laidlaw at
Let's
Valve.
go.
I guess it was the right time.
I'm
and
glad
right
Mark
place, and
Is at
quite a bit
least
of luck, and I ended up getting an internship that way. I
able
guess I
to
was
talk about
17 at
this.
the time.
So
because I know he's
we've got
kind
a
of done.
whole company
Kelly
that-
Bailey.
that's familiar with tools. And
I
a
didn't
whole
even realize that-
process, And then we just
That's Kelly
started
Bailey?
over. Like,
I swear in the I thought maybe it was him, but I swear in the last doc he looked a lot different. I think he gained some weight.
that's familiar with tools and a whole process, and then we just
I'm glad-
started over.
But as I was saying, I'm glad Mark is able to. I know Half-Life fans are kind of annoying to Mark Laidlaw, and so he doesn't really want to have anything to do with it. But I'm glad he's at least participating in these.
Like, we rebuilt the tools and we rebuilt the engine. So we had this long period of time where we could sort of take our time on design. And so we
it's
spent
a
a lot
gray
of time
box of
working
the
on story
Underchopper
and just trying to
area.
figure out how to make this.
Whoa. Sketches of the layout of Nova
And
Prospect.
so we spent a lot of time working on story and just trying to figure out
That's so
how
cool.
to make this thing bigger, like somehow more epic. And those discussions eventually led to
Ooh,
this
I don't know
idea
if I've seen that.
So in
before.
Half-Life 1, you open this portal, some strange
Oh, I guess
rift
it is
to another
Kelly Bailey.
dimension, and we thought,
I guess from other angles, he
well,
looked kind of.
what if that broadcasts the signal to the universe that's like, oh, there's this planet there, it's free air and water. And so then we sort of came up with this idea of, well, there's this mega organization that's resource starved, and they're just gonna come.
I don't think I've
and
seen
take it
these
if
beta,
they
some of
can.
these beta since.
How many years passed between? 6?
Yeah.
So I would say
Oh, that's the
first-
guy. That's Cave Johnson, man. They got Cave Johnson to talk about
2 years.
Half-Life 2.
We tried a lot of things, and a lot of those stories arcs that we had initially didn't have
Sometimes I forget
really any
that they
carryover from
model faces.
story.
Model faces off of real people. Oh, this is one of Mark Laidlaw's short stories.
Arcs
We've
we had
seen this, but
initially
this
didn't
got
have
least.
Really, any carryover from
I've
Black
seen
Mesa
at least
or
this
any of
one
that.
before.
There was originally going to be three different alien races, like the bugs,
Dabe
the
Ing.
religious one.
Dabe Ing. That's the guy I was trying to think of.
And
You.
the
Get that thing off
Antlions
the
actually came.
Dabe Ing. I was wondering if Dabe Ing was making that new Half-Life 2 promotional art they put for the 20th anniversary.
Out of that bug race.
Because it
that
looks
was
kind of
supposed
like
to be
his
a
style,
much
but
bigger
maybe not
part of the
quite.
game.
It had 3 alien races: the warrior aliens, the insect aliens, and the
It's funny, Dabe Ing didn't even work on Half-Life Alyx because he wanted to play as a fan.
spy aliens. And it had like a prog-like
Which I get
city,
it,
which
but
ended
I
up
wish
being the
he at
closest
least
thing
made
to
a
City
couple
17.
promotional arts
In a
after
lot of ways, it reminds
it
me
came
of
out,
like
you know?
music.
After you
you know,
played it.
everyone was sort of riffing ideas on, well, what if we did this or tried that? I remember we were really ambitious at the beginning. I remember we designed, what, 4 cities at one point?
I've seen some of
Prague,
these, but not all.
Jerusalem, Chicago, Los Angeles, I believe. We had an Arctic base, an underwater base, an icebreaker ship, an airplane sequence that crashed into a high rise, which we cut right after 9/11. We had
Okay. Cut right after 9/11. How 9/11 affected Half-Life 2's development. This is cool. This is, I guess, is that part of the depot train going into it?
several combine
That seems-
bases
that
in the
looks new.
wasteland. We had the Air Exchange,
Oh, Air Exchange.
which is where they were taking, you know, the atmosphere from Earth. We had a train depot and so on. So we
Okay, we have a map of the. Can someone figure out if this is based on a real, like, location in real life? Like, if these match anything? Like, if this is traced over an actual continent or something? I have an actual. The air conditioner. A really massive air conditioner you got there. Kraken Base, Path of Borealis. That's when Borealis was like a more regular ship. Flight of C-130 into the skyscraper, or I guess the Citadel.
really obviously had to scale back
Weather
what we were
control.
trying to do. But, you know, that's okay to go a little bit nuts at the beginning.
I saw it almost as like sophomore
Drop
anxiety,
ship?
maybe. You know, like,
Yeah.
oh wow, we have to surpass Half-Life, and Half-Life was important, you know, and so it was like this like unbounded ambition.
And we kept asking ourselves, and Gabe kept asking, well, how is this Half-Life? Where, you know, when you have a silent first-person narrator, you could.
Okay, that looks awesome. Happy 20th anniversary, everyone. Yes.
Where, you know,
This is new. This has to
when
be.
you have a silent first-person narrator, you could.
Valve
you could
really
tell
will just hold on to the best art of all time and then be like, okay, 20
people was
years,
Gordon and throw
20
that
years later. Oh,
character
yeah,
into
I forgot
the-
we had these. Manhack Arcade. I don't know if we've had I know I've seen a fan one on the Half-Life 2 Project Beta website, but I don't think we've seen like actual concept art of it.
Really, any environment say, yeah, this is Half-Life. But unless the environment is telling you that that's the case, you're not. It's very arbitrary. So we wrestled with that a long time. Slowly, the sort of
There's
grab bag
Dr.
of
Court.
characters we had, we started to feel like
Seen that
there
concept
was
art.
connections between them, and then at some point we realized, oh, we could make this out of the science team, the survivors from Black Mesa, and suddenly that idea, for me, was the idea of it's the science team. That suddenly you could put those guys anywhere, and because they have like a familial interconnectedness, and they recognize Gordon, that will make you feel like it's a continuation of this story. Like obviously Alex was totally new to that universe, but she had a father who.
My goodness. That's like the era of the Half-Life 2 beta where it still kind of looked like Half-Life 1,
had been in
but
Black
like
Mesa,
slightly better lighting.
He and the other scientists were friends.
She looks like if Gearbox did like an HD remaster of her.
And they had extended their relationship into this new world that you were in. That was kind of the click, was the science
Cool.
team. And that was a while till we got there.
You know, much like the first one where all the contributors were really
Ted
collectively
Beckman.
deciding on the direction, is we were
Creature
really
artist.
making a push to grow the team and hire new artists. You know, Zabi Ing was an influential early contributor. I think, you know, he and I were doing character designs for Gordon and for Alex and for some of the antagonist Combine characters.
At the time, I was looking at a lot of, really the helmets, which I think are kind of one of their defining features.
Yep.
was based off some gas masks from Europe that I had seen in some reference. I remember doing early concepts of the new HEV suit, like what's Gordon gonna be now? And I had kind of just started, and so I was like, I'm gonna make this my own. It looked, I guess, kind of like the still suits in Dune, but black and a lot more belt buckles and latex. And Gabe was just kind of like, what's this? Like, it's Gordon. I was like really proud and excited. He's like, why is it not orange? You know, it's like, or something to that effect of essentially.
I'm glad
like,
Gabe
why are
was
you
there
giving up
because
this iconic part of the character.
People love it.
Yeah, people love that. So what are you doing? And it's like, you know, I kind of.
I'm glad because the Mark V HEV suit is
So we
awesome.
kind of went back to the drawing board and ended up with what shipped.
And we had like, I don't know, so many creatures that we tried and abandoned, you know, not because they were bad, because we had better things to pursue, you know, more like there were the sack ticks, the cremator, the crab synth, the stalkers
like
as
the stalkers
an enemy.
we had a little bit in the game.
Yeah,
right?
we
But
shipped the stalkers, but not as an adversary that you fought.
Yeah, there was definitely an evolution of how biological versus how synthetic a lot of the creatures in Half-Life 2 were, and I was always hoping to get to a space where it was ambiguous, you know, where you couldn't quite tell if this was created or if it had grown or if it was natural or synthetic.
There was some synths I did that never shipped. Actually, we did ship them. They were at the end of the game when you're going through the Citadel. I had designed these synths that no animator could figure out how to actually move because they weren't built to move.
And much like some of the environments that we've seen, you know, released in the leak that were very dark, some of the early Half-Life stuff was also very dark. But at the time, video games were very dark.
In the interim, before we hired Fletcher, and before Victor was there,
It's just,
because
it just looks like Gabe Johnson.
I don't remember how it came about that they built this level, but the idea was there was some looting going on, and the idea was you're.
I don't
in
know
this
if
little
we've
alley,
seen
and
this
you see a
much footage
citizen,
of the gas mask
You hear a
citizens.
voice saying, "TV, free TV!" Like they just got into the TV store, and there's the citizens and the cops are fighting, and you see a citizen run past you holding a TV set, and he goes, "Get one, get a TV, get yourself a TV." And then he runs off down the thing, and you go in another courtyard, and there's a cop with a nightstick and a citizen, and they're like having a fist fight. And it's interesting because the NPCs are negotiating their bounding.
Trenchcoat Metro Cubs, man. Oh, that's so cool. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish they at least had some variant of Metro Cops that had trench coats. I know it kind of goes against the Combine sort of like efficiency, like optimization thing. Obviously, a trench coat is not very practical, even though it looks really cool. But
boxes.
just like a Metro Cop captain or something like that.
There's some animation like how difficult
with a
it is
trench
to
coat
contact.
would go crazy.
We captured everything. We took pictures of whiteboard design sessions. There were really crude drawings and ideas.
Who's this guy? Oh my goodness, a whole whiteboard.
Some of the stuff from the very beginning made it all the way to the end. You know, Ravenholm, Antlions, dog, Kleiner's pet head crab, and you know, those things were just so fun in the moment that how could they
That's how you
not
know they were
survive, right?
designed in the early 2000s.
The other thing that was really memorable is I remember we started making the world really dystopian, really dark at the beginning, and some of the concept art shows that we didn't think players would enjoy spending 20 to 40 hours.
Not very
in
good
such a
optimization.
dark and a kind of oppressive setting, so the game lightened up considerably over time, but you know, still maintained the feeling of a security state.
So I was trying to like get all these cool ideas that the team had already when I arrived and streamline them. You know, instantly I think we were friends with Mark Laidlaw. We had a common sort of vision and fantasy to create a Orwell-like city. And then slowly, you know, I brought context behind that. The idea that we can place this in an anonymous Central Eastern European city, which is a perfect setting because, you know, in these countries...
I wish there was more commentary I could give besides, this is so cool, but I mean, it's like...
We had the Russians.
I don't even know what to say.
Why not the aliens?
And one of
the trench coats to be award for efficient cops.
I remember working on was
I was thinking
Test Stream.
like I'm sure other people have thought of this before, but like if there was like a captain of a unit or something like that, like the Combine captain in Half-Life Alyx, but like specifically for the Metro Cop tier of Combine where they're still like very human, just wearing the masks. That would be awesome.
Standards. On Half-Life, every level designer kind of had their own idea of how big stairs were or how big steps were going to be or how big a button was. Make sure we had some consistency. Another thing that was sort of important was just getting more people to go on field trips and going to do research. Because I think a lot of the level designers on Half-Life 1, you know, just were building very abstractly. And so we wanted to have some more grounding in reality and have more realistic proportions, and also just get textures were going from hand painted to more photographic. And so we would go out and collect a lot of the pictures for those textures to start building for our new library.
I joined Half-Life 2 probably a year after it had started. I know that it was at least a year because I was put on Borealis, which was like everybody else had disowned. But then I came along and said, oh, well, I guess this is now your problem. So I started on Borealis, and of course I failed at that too. That eventually got cut.
Yeah, so I came in having had experience doing game AI. I was at Looking Glass Studios. Probably the biggest thing I did there was lead programmer on Thief, the Dark
At least the Combine captains in Half-Life Alyx have the
and actually my first
have the cool
to me.
Item bags on their sides that have physics and all that. So that's kind of that's a good compromise, I think.
The guy that you're supposed to walk through the Borealis ship with.
There was a bunch of work put into it. We even went on an icebreaker ship to get reference. As soon as we started to put it together, we realized how unbelievably tight the space was, and you could never make any kind of really interesting combat in it, and so it just withered on the vine right there.
I mean, when I started, there was that document that was the tech wish list.
Yes.
It was just this very bare bones bullet list of
there's
tech features.
the Antarctic.
And I mean, I think it was like 6 years of work.
It's so weird that they plan for
and then
to go.
realize it into a product.
Barney has seen better days. It's cool. It's kind of it was so weird to see that. I mean, I already knew about this before. Everyone knew that you went to the Arctic in the beta before, but it's kind of funny that you were supposed to in the very first game, and by the time all the retail versions come out, Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and Episode 2,
all the implications
you're still not there in the Arctic, but they still plan to go there, so
very, very
it's funny that idea has lasted so long, but it's never come to fruition
the collaboration between
retail
artists
yet.
and engineers. Ken Birdwell, and he was a fan about photography and getting the lighting right.
The math that we were using was wrong. And not only that, the math that everybody was using was wrong. And then as I started to correct it, and I realized just how bad it was, and then I fixed it, and suddenly everything looked great, I had to go tell the hardware guys, the people who made hardware accelerators, that fundamentally the math was wrong on their cards. That took about 2.5 years.
Dang.
I could not convince the guys. Finally, we hired Gary McTaggart and Charlie Brown, and those guys had enough pull and enough. I have a fine arts major. Nobody's going to listen to me.
Charlie and I met at college at the University of Florida. We were both getting computer science degrees.
This guy.
Yes. I ended up dropping out to go work at 3DFX as employee 11 there, and then I think Charlie, you actually graduated, didn't you?
I graduated and then followed you, and I was 17. Then.
Charlie Brown.
I was 17.
There were three kind of principles. One was to make something that was immersive, visually.
So I guess that's where the blue goggles came from. So
really
they were in
rich
game
and
at some
appealing,
point.
something more like you would see in a film. And
I'm talking about that one promotional art where the lenses are like glowing blue.
The art direction and the technology to make that happen. Second,
I was like, they're not even blue in retail.
One
I guess they
to
are in
have
the beta.
characters that you cared about. So basically, that could react, emote, that mattered in the world instead of just being signposts. Third was to have a responsive environment with physics that mattered.
I think that maybe
cool.
more than other people realized just how big of a task we were setting for ourselves. So I was a little bit daunted by that.
We felt the pressure from Gabe actually to double down and make something even grander than Half-Life 1. Therein lies the sort of little bit of the trap of Half-Life 2's development story, which went from being a pretty quick, like, let's figure out how to do this to like a 6-year, slog.
Yeah, and it was like, 6-7 days a week, 10 to 14 hours a day.
Yeah, we're gonna cut your feature. Sorry, it's just not worth it.
So I ended up being really the point person working with the FBI.
I remember coming in that morning and figuring it out, and it just felt like someone had just punched me in the gut.
Oh, they're talking about that guy that came in and leaked Half-Life 2.
What's this mean? Like, can we still keep working on the game? Like, is someone just going to release the whole game tomorrow?
I definitely was not shielded from that.
I remember one conversation with Gabe, which is like, he was like, so how fucked are we? Yeah, we're kind of screwed.
The company was pretty close to going bankrupt. I was pretty close to going personally bankrupt. It's like there was no money left.
I can't think of another case when that happened. Yeah, a real bullshit move.
Are we allowed to cry in this documentary? That's what I want to know.
Performance.
Remember, we shipped Half-Life 1, and the world loved it, and we're just super happy. Like, yeah, we did this thing, and we had a big meeting, and Gabe looks at me and goes like, so all the animations are terrible. How are you going to make Half-Life 2 better?
In Half-Life 1, we made what were at the time significant improvements, but still they were fairly robotic and mechanical, and so we had to go and do a huge amount of work on the animation system and on the facial animation system and coming up with authoring tools that allowed you to do it.
Well, end of the line.
A lot of this was level designer design, like figuring out how to build atmosphere. We knew that we wanted to start you off seeing the Citadel right away, and we wanted to introduce you to the city with this great voice acting from Robert Culp. We wanted to finally do real characters. We knew that from Half-Life 1, the way that players would respond to having any character talk to them was like way beyond
the facial
reaction
animation in Half-Life 2.
When we figured this out,
even after Half-Life Alyx, like still
Barney
holds
would
up.
follow you around
Like the
and
fact
do
that it's like
things,
automatic.
Suddenly you just love this guy.
Facial
You love the
animation for the
scientist, you
most
love these
part.
characters. So we knew we wanted to,
and it still
just
looks
bring that like
it matches
way up
what
to the next, like,
whoever
level
is
beyond
talking
what
is
we could
saying
imagine.
is like seriously impressive.
And the theory
Like,
was
I barely
if you
see
could
any
make a
games that do
character
it
who
that
could
well.
act realistically.
I don't know if I have seen any
that
actually.
would help the
that do
player
it
make
automatically
an
like
emotional
that.
connection to the other characters in the game. And at the time we decided we were going to do that, not only did none of the technology work, but I would go talk to industry professionals and they would tell me not to bother because you couldn't do it. Luckily found a research work
Well, that's
done in
very
the
helpful of
70s
them.
by Dr. Paul Ekman. And he had just broken down how the face works and how humans make expressions. And he had this incredibly wonderful formal clinical description of what a face does and the sorts of things that normal people do with their face.
I tried this experiment with putting a grid on Scott Lynch's face and shooting him from the front and the side so that we could get points from this grid in 3 space for the geometry, and we got shots of his texture, and we found a good way to model a reasonable head, of his geometry. And
That's a pretty
then
HD
good way
image of
to
that. I don't know if we've
model
seen that.
a reasonable head, of his geometry, and then project the texture onto it, and then abstract it or stylize it enough so that it didn't look totally photographic, but it looked like a kind of a real person.
Occasionally, when somebody hears the history, it will, generate
yeah,
a light
there's-
bulb, but no, I don't get accosted.
Real life.
No one's asking
Barney.
for beers or anything.
No, or buying me beers.
We added Ken's eye tech to that, which was amazing because he really modeled and he went deep into the research of how eyes work.
Eyeballs was about 9 months, just on eyeballs. But you have to do each step. You have to
Oh,
get
I'm not
the shape of
surprised,
the
'cause
eye
the
right.
eyes
You
do
have to
look
get
really good.
how the eyelid gets
Where it's
pushed by the cornea and the ball of the eye. So as your eyes move around, all your lower lid, your upper lid, all of those get shifted slightly, and it's all automatic. It was wonderful. The day I got it working, the characters went from looking like interesting dolls to Alex just looked at me. Oh my God, this is working.
They would ask for surprising things at times. Like they wanted really fine control over looking at named objects.
Have we seen a gas mask citizen? I don't know why the
things at times,
frame
like
moving. Oh, there it is. It's just a lot slower than I expected. I don't know if we've seen a gas mask citizen model that high quality. Like, it's got the glass and him behind it, and the eyes are like got all the textures on it and everything.
They wanted really fine
That's cool.
control over looking
I kind of hope they release that
named
model.
objects in the 3D.
Why is this? I like how it's closed. Why is this coat closed like so far down? I was like, why does he look so awkward here? And then I looked at like how far his tie goes down before it gets to the two buttons. And I'm like, what?
World, no matter what direction the actor is facing, so you had to figure out things about, oh, maybe the upper body needs to turn and the head needs to turn and the eyes need to turn.
Oh yeah, there's
so we're in the
Eli's
elevator coming back
little
from
beta
Starbucks
look.
to get morning coffee, and we saw this face, and it's like, that's him. That's the scientist, and he was an accountant in
You look like a
the
rectangle,
firm
yeah.
below ours in Kirkland.
Yeah, nothing kind of blows your mind when you've been working all day on this character in your game, and all of a sudden you get on the
Fletcher.
elevator and you're like, holy crap, it's him.
Well, so I once ran into him at the airport.
So we cast people that were real change vendors in front of supermarkets. We cast waiters in restaurants.
When I was in junior high school, I took karate classes, and that was my old karate instructor.
Randy Lundeen said, hey,
It's really like
there's
the
a
most
guy
unflattering
holding a
model they
sign
could have
for
made out of
work
that
at this
guy.
exit on 520 every day.
Oh, does it?
Who has this great face, and he took a picture of his face, and he stopped and asked if he could. And so it's like, oh, this is great. I think this guy's Eli. You know, we brought him in and, you know, paid him $200, which is what we were paying people back then. And so that's where he came from.
Erdine Grcic was a Bosnian friend from I knew from school. He was like, we want the East European contingent and stuff too, so it was pretty interesting.
We wanted anybody to feel a part of the world when they're playing it as a player. And so, you know, we found people from pretty much every skin color, different ages, male and female, equal numbers of males and females. Sadly for them, they all had to share the same voice actor.
Sadly for us, too.
We dropped a crate of rockets coming across the plaza. We hoped for one more fighter to help storm that barricade. We never dreamed it would be you.
It's gonna be so surreal whenever they do Half-Life 3 and you get Rebels again, and all the Rebels are probably gonna be voiced by different people. Or at least, like most of them, I will be. I kind of hope that they at least bring John Patrick Lowry for like one of the citizens. Maybe even like one with a bigger focus, like bring Griggs and Sheckley back and John Patrick Lowry voices both of them or something. That'd be awesome.
First prototype that we did of how characters could work together in a scene.
Yeah, it was like a proof of concept. Yeah. We kind of had to make that work, you know, and put everything we could into it at the time to test all the technology and then know from there what can we do, what else can we do with this.
Turning it into a performance that would be engaging rather than just audio, radio play kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, that was the point where that scene was where it all started to come together, all our theories and hopes for what the experience might be.
And it all went completely smoothly.
Yeah.
Out of the box. It was amazing.
The most difficult technical aspects
I feel
are
weird,
really
no stock
boring.
VAs, yeah.
They're okay, the character is running through AI. And
I mean,
now
all
they
of the
need to
characters
jump in
that
and
weren't
do-
Combine. I'm guessing the Combine, there's going to be a lot of shared voice actors, at least between every Combine faction. Like an HLA, every Combine suppressor is voiced by one guy. Or every Combine charger is voiced by one guy. Every Combine grunt is voiced by one guy. But I think every human character that you run into in Half-Life Alyx is voiced by different people. So, I mean, they weren't necessarily citizens or rebels, but
hug
they
another
kind of were.
character. Now they need to pick up something from the desk, and that thing on the desk can move, and where the character is can move, and where the player is can move, and everything about this whole scene can move dynamically. And to get to that stage where it just looks right.
I feel dead inside.
is a
I
huge
feel live
technological
outside.
Engine artistic
All
challenge.
right.
But once it's done, it's just amazing.
My stream's gonna get copyright strike because of that music.
You're staring at me again.
Sucks because it's my favorite track. Well, not my favorite track, but it's like
Sure you don't want me to swap
I
out the
really like
polarizer?
how that track
I remember
feels. You know.
when we got Fletcher on, and he would kind of teach us about how they did things at Disney, and they would bring in acting coaches for the animators. What does sarcasm look like? Certain expressions, and there's a timing to those expressions, and
when you have a scene with multiple characters.
Oh, Matt Wood.
It's not always
Hey.
the person talking that's.
I still need to
doing
play his cat
the
game.
acting, right? Everybody's-
Little Kitty Big
you know,
City.
Even though you may be looking at Kleiner because he's the one talking.
I forgot he didn't
every
even
character
start working at Valve until Half-Life 2.
in that scene around
He wasn't
you,
on
behind
Half-Life
you,
1.
They're all doing stuff because not everybody's
Cool
going
to
be
see
looking
him
at the
here.
same place.
Yeah, I remember even just like when Alex teleports.
Brain
and
scan?
then you
No,
see her
not
show
brain
up on
scan.
the screen, right?
I'll play it again.
which is about when we.
You're staring at me again.
This
Couldn't
ambient
snap out
track.
of it. You're staring at me again.
That one has copyright claimed a couple of my streams and probably one of my animations. I think.
All this extra
demo reel that was sent, incredible. Like, miss that guy. Jake was a random demo reel that was sent in. That was incredible.
Jake was incredible.
Jake was incredible. Like, miss that guy.
One of a kind.
Yeah, miss that guy. Amazing technical animator.
Yeah, I mean, Jake was one of those guys that, you know, whatever needed to be done, he would figure it out and just make it happen.
Was he not able to
He'll just
be
get done
part of the?
correctly.
I think also the context of when all this was taking place, like the
Documentary.
problems that he was helping solve, were just things that weren't.
The stiff
being
bull
done.
squid
Even something
ragdoll.
as simple as passing.
I like that.
Passing someone an object between two characters was.
Would have been cool to
sounds
see
super
more Zen
simple, but actually
characters.
really complex, especially back then.
Half-Life 2, but
And so he really helped push like how do we
I
even
imagine we
do
might see
this,
more of that in future
in
Half-Life
collaboration
games,
with the
considering
programmers.
we saw
Zombie
some in
wanted to do a
in
Goo
Half-Life,
thing.
Alex.
So I worked on the shader for that.
And at least from
I did the
HLX,
stuff for
you know.
rendering that and all the little monitors everywhere that showed other scenes. Did the refraction shaders and the code, the supporting code for that. The shaders didn't really have conditionals or loops or anything like that, so we would unroll it all and compile a bazillion shaders. It got to the point where it was so many shaders and it took so long to compile that we, I think Mike Dassault implemented distributed building system. Everyone's machine in the company was running something that could sit there and compile shaders all the time or do lighting for the levels or whatever.
It's all like any opportunity to kind of add to the visual storytelling, I think was.
Yeah, and I think we hid the first G-Man sighting there.
He was one. Oh, that's right. He was one of the monitor.
Yeah.
It would flip to him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he'd just walk out of frame.
The moment
I think I
where
made the camera too low.
you see him makes you realize there must be a lot of moments where you didn't know he was watching you. He's not Big Brother. That doesn't make sense to me that he would be a Big Brother because that's sort of industrial and bureaucratic.
It's
Big Brother, you.
Mike Shapiro.
He's not Big Brother.
Mike Shapiro.
That doesn't make sense to me that he would be a Big Brother because that's sort of industrial and bureaucratic. And this is much more intimate. He's always over your shoulder, watching, waiting for the moment to speak.
That's
where I
awesome.
think he lives.
I don't think we've ever actually seen Mike Shapiro in action voicing G-Man like that. That's so surreal. Man, he could play him live action, I think.
For the moment to speak.
Goodness.
That's where I think
That's giving me chills, bro. That's
My
so
name's Mike
cool.
Shapiro, and I am G-Man. I am
Well, there for people making animations, there's like a whole new voice line for you guys to be able to use.
also Barney. And Barney's not he's not that far from G. Gordon, like he's not that far from where I live. He's so fallible and he's always tripping over himself and that he's just such a good guy, Not necessarily the most capable, but just really there for you.
Get that thing away from me. Here, my pet. Hop up.
I think
Glad
early
he's not
on I had a
too
sense
old to
that
do the Barney
G-Man
voice either.
knew a lot and was taking care of a lot that we didn't quite understand, was kind of enjoying fucking with people and massaging reality in a way that he had a unique capacity to do. There were also aspects to him that I knew pretty early on, like his relationship to time is very different than you or I would think. In my mind, he could literally be in two places at once, and so sometimes there was a kind of an implied hitch in his timing, or he's experiencing 2 or 3 different moments at once, and that might be funny for a reason that you don't know because you're only in one time with him at a moment.
The right man in the wrong place can...
Man, imagine if that was like an explanation for why he stutters. Or has like these weird awkward pauses, like he's trying to be multiple places at once and he's like trying to speak to like multiple people and multitask like in different times, and that's interesting. Obviously that's just like the voice actor and that's not a confirmation, that's just like his own interpretation of it, but that's a cool theory. In general.
I think as we realized how well
it's like
worked, coming.
It's like when you play like I don't know, when you're testing out a microphone in a game or something like that and you do the audio playback and you hear your voice, and when your voice is like copying you, it makes you interrupt yourself because it's so like awkward or whatever. Like you'll start talking and then it'll repeat itself and then and you start talking like that. What if that's the reason why G-Man is stuttering? Because he's here, like he's talking to multiple people at once, and he's still knowledgeable about all the time periods that he's doing it at the same time or something. Like, dude,
Coming out of stuff like the Kleiner's Lab experience.
That's so cool.
We started looking for more and more ways to include her in stuff.
And of course, she really came to life when we found Merle Dandridge.
Yeah. We could feel her already as a partner in creating this character, I think, coming out of that. She's just got a...
Please bring Merle Dandridge back for Half-Life 3, please. I beg you, Valve.
Creative relationship with this character, and she's
There's
gonna
no
bring a lot
one
to it.
else who could
I
play
feel like
Alex.
She was really able to
No
bring
one.
a warmth and humor into her deliveries too that other people, it was more like Soldier in a game a little bit. I mean, she did this great job of bringing like a character warmth into it.
And now we're sitting ducks unless we can get this thing running. Come on, Dr. Kleiner, is it gonna work or not?
No, there's nothing to be nervous about. Let's see. The massless field flux should self-limit, and I've clamped the...
My name is Harry
Let's go.
Robbins. I'm known as Hal Robbins. I have a stage name of Dr. Hal. My only doctorate is in theology from the Church of the Subgenius, which I'm involved in. Well, I think perhaps Mark was familiar with the things I do on the radio, and he thought my voice would be good for it. I have a monthly Ask Dr. Hal show on
Like,
Twitch,
is that
on
hat?
Zoom, and I'm also on a couple of radio shows. Well, I'm a graphic artist. I've worked for DC Comics for their Paradox Press line. Well, I have some patrons who I do painting for. I've painted many things for them.
Oh,
I
he's
played
actually pretty good at
Dr.
that.
Isaac Kleiner after.
I just, when I said that, I didn't even think about it until after I said it. That it reminded me of that clip from Smiling Friends where the witch is like cutting food or something like that, like really fast. And they're like, "Oh, she's actually pretty good at that."
I did the voice of a number of different scientists. I try to pronounce all the words. I make
It's so
sure
weird
to
that it's just
ask
that's just
for
his talking voice
consonants, for example. I
of
don't
being Kleiner.
say didn't the way most people do, even newscasters today. I always make sure to say didn't. Perhaps it sounds archaic that way. Mark wrote archaic expressions into my
Does kind of sound like he has a
dialogue,
cold
and
right
I
now.
would say things like "oh fi" and so forth.
No, not up there! No, no! Careful, Lamar. Those are quite fragile! Oh, fie. It'll be another week before I can coax her out of there.
Yeah, longer if we're lucky.
Barney, you're not an animal person.
It was always pleasant. I was always well treated. They were always patient.
Because he's older?
even if
I don't
mispronounced,
think so, because I've seen an
something
interview
which
like
obviously
recently of him
correctly,
talking,
and I was
very
thinking,
recently,
and I always try to be
and
as close as possible
he doesn't
to a
quite sound
one-hit
like
wonder, so they don't
he
have
has
to
a
do
cold
it
like he
again.
does right now.
But that
I think
enabled
he
us
just
to
has a
do it
cold. I don't think it's
time,
his
and
age.
so they had a lot of things which
There was
arose from
there was actually a video that just came out today from NoClick, where it was a bunch of different people from the community and some voice actors, and even the guy who was the face reference for G-Man, wishing Half-Life 2 a happy 20th anniversary, and he was there doing the same thing, and he didn't sound like he had a
and
cold.
Some of these are
So
the things I'm asked to say by fans, which are inexplicable to people who don't know the game. Like, you want this guy to say, "Have you seen my coffee cup?" And why do we all have to wear these ridiculous ties?
Oh my goodness. I wonder if they got, since they're showing voice actors, oh, what's his name? I can't believe I forgot. The Vortigaunt voice actor. Oh, Tony Todd, who passed away recently. I wonder if they, like, I don't want to skip ahead, but I wonder if they got an interview with
So
him
the same way
before he
that,
passed in here.
we thought it was important in
Because I assume this
Half-Life 1
documentary has
that when
been
you shot a wall,
worked
that,
on
you
for
know,
like
you
probably
put
the whole
decals on the
year,
wall
you
to
know?
indicate that you shot it. We wanted to say, okay, what happens when you throw a grenade at
And
a
he
bunch
just
of
passed
boxes,
away,
right?
like, a
The
couple
world
days
itself
ago.
needed to be more reactive to everything you did.
We used some third-party code, but Jay Stelly was the one who really wrote the wrapper on that integrated it.
And physics was even early in the project was pretty successful. Right? Once we got over the initial thing of like things falling over,
The frame rate
we
on those
started adding
physics.
breakable objects, things you could script and hammer. We added vehicles, sound cues from all the objects, and the AIs you could drop things on them and crush them, things like that.
They were gonna have like a camera on the buggy that would appear when you're talking to characters. We were robbed, bro.
Objects
We were
and
robbed.
the AIs you
Could have
could
at
drop
least
things on them
gotten that in
and crush
episode
them.
2 on the jalopy when they added the GPS.
Things like that. All of those behaviors, once we got just a few of those things in, that was really fertile.
That's cool though.
For
Even
everyone who worked on
at
Half-Life
least
2,
for the beta.
NASA's got broken down
There's
into
Robin.
a set of scales that I assume someone's already talked about.
Robin's got a nice haircut.
Okay.
Well, you say.
So yeah, all right. So the question is whether it's bigger than
Was
a
he
bread
on the
box or
severed head?
smaller than a
That'd be
space station.
Yeah.
Right.
Straight up.
That's
When you went to debug something and the text says, "Oh, this thing weighs as much as a racehorse,"
yeah. You knew it was more than a bread box.
you're like,
but
well,
not
it's-
as much as a space station.
I think so, but I don't know in the scale if it's
Lost
going
my
to
mind
be
today,
more
yeah.
than that.
Yeah, because
Refrigerator.
I can't wait to
refrigerator.
go
This
through
all
the
came from-
commentary
at some
notes.
Point, I think it was David Spira.
Yeah.
So you could look at any entity in the game and turn on a bunch of debugging text about it. And one of the most important things to get right in every object in the game that was physically simulated was its mass, because that dictated an enormous amount of things, like the amount of force it would apply to something else when it hit them, and the amount of force, its response when it's hit by something else. All that stuff. Had to get it right. But of course, like, mass is just a number. Like, what does this mean to anyone? And so I think it was David Spira who found.
Did you watch the
online
E3 demos? No,
some
I will
list
after this
of
though.
masses and objects, and he just brought that.
I'm not even
going
gonna be able to play the dev commentary until tomorrow, I think.
or something. And so over time, like you'll just
It's
got that
already
locked in, and
6:41.
because it was like a logarithmic scale.
we're not
it
even
went
halfway
from
through the
things like,
documentary yet.
Bread box, paint can, or something, up to like space stations.
Yeah, the moon.
The moon.
You're like, what? What do I do with this? At this point, it's just keyframe at that point.
Yeah, so there would be many like conversations where we'd say, so I don't know, do you think that's more like a racehorse or the space station?
The very first physics puzzle that we put in the game, from a development calendar standpoint, was the washing machine puzzle, where you push the washing machine into the hopper and raise the ramp for the airboat to jump over. We developed that because we felt like we had this section of relentless pressure with the attack helicopter. Watching players play test, we felt like they needed relief from it. You see the very first training of it in the on-foot canals with the teeter-totter that you have to put the cinder blocks on, which was added to the game later, and it's sort of training of like, hey, you can interact with levers and balance and create paths for yourself. And then later the buoyancy puzzle, we added that one after the washing machine puzzle, and it was just kind of like,
media uncovered in those E3 demos.
You can
Nice.
connect masses with invisible pulley systems and then build little machines.
Yeah,
that way.
definitely. I will definitely watch those.
I guess at first, right, the gravity gun was kind of this, we weren't even sure we were going to ship it in the game. It was like a development tool. And so it was like this beam, you could reach out and grab things and pull them toward you or reposition them, drop them, grab them from another point. But then we talked about simplifying it and
Guys,
just
the
making it
physics
to where it
gun
was
from
just
Gmod.
pushing on things and pulling on things. And where could we go with that?
And the first draft of Ravenholm wasn't really about physics so deeply, right? We ended up reorganizing the game to put Ravenholm after you get the gravity gun.
It's funny that
Originally,
Ravenholm doesn't even
before
look
you
all
would,
that different, at least in
park
that
the airboat
section.
at the dock of Ravenholm and then get out and go explore Ravenholm.
Scooty Toilet 20th anniversary. Oh boy.
We wanted like a horror area, since in a lot of ways Half-Life was a horror game and the horror was kind of leaching out of Half-Life 2. So we at least wanted one environment that was just scary. And then we had a design meeting where Doug Woods said, preacher with a shotgun. And I was like, oh, yes.
The important thing to know is like we didn't sit down and design Ravenholm as like the tutorial for all those things. It kind of kept getting things over time. And then after we got more physics working,
shotgun sound?
we had
Yeah.
this idea that there would be traps for the zombies in there that were physics. And there were a bunch of them, and they didn't all make it into the final game. And then some of them did work though, and we had to build a system for cutting the zombies in half once we added the propeller traps, and we had to make them the right height.
Yeah, it'll be
you
so
could crawl
cool
under
to
'em
see
or
what the
zombies could
evolution
crawl
of
under
the
'em. And then someone had the idea, well, what if
sort
the
of,
top half can keep
cutting
going?
zombies
and
in
it can
half
get you
thing.
under there? We tried that,
They'll
and that
do
was
for
great. Someone had the idea of
HLX.
Solid and Ravenholm,
Because I know they're
existed,
definitely
and
working
we
on
ended up, like based on this behavior
stuff like
happening at
that.
another level.
That's
like,
been linked
built
in
the
the
subway and
code
put it
for
back in
Source 2
Ravenholm.
updates.
Ravenholm was probably some of the most fun I had working on Half-Life 2. The whole idea behind Ravenholm and that we were going to starve you of ammo sort of forced them in a position where they have to rely on physics and the context of the objects around them. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if the zombie it's going to take him 30 more seconds to get to me.
Yeah, the
but
old
he's got, like, a
Special
barrel
model
on
looks
him.
kind of
Swap that at me. So
goofy
that was
looking.
definitely something that was.
Isn't it just
we
like
have
the
physics
world model now?
This
That
would be a
model?
cool thing to do with it. And
It's
it'd be
kind
a
of what it
thing
looks
that would
like.
Make sense and a thing that would be
Like the one
scary
you
and
just
fun.
find on the ground.
One of the things that John was like extremely strong at was little touches, like I think we called them puzzlets.
We did call them puzzlets.
Like they weren't puzzles, they were puzzlets.
Yeah, it's this little thing that takes you between 5 and 60 seconds to resolve, and at the end you either get something or you feel a certain way, and it was really a big part of making sure that like minute-to-minute gameplay, as we called it, was interesting. Yeah, he was good at that.
We actually did this as an exercise of like, okay, take, all the elements in the game and have a grid of, rows and columns of all those elements and make sure that there's a meaningful thing at each intersection of those cells so that everything has a meaningful interaction with everything else. And where we saw empty cells, we would actually design a thing.
Yeah,
like,
is there something we could do there?
Yeah, barnacles plus grenades or whatever, you know. Okay, we need to make sure that they'll eat the grenade and then blow up.
Like the reason we build these scripting level design tools, you know, it's just, it makes it accessible for all the people on the team, even if you can't write code, to like put something together, try out an idea, you know, see what we can do with this. And the Entity system's no different, right? A lot of things the level designers just want to, like, I have this idea for something that could happen. Is that fun?
Look to your own salvation.
Yeah, I was on TF2 at that time, and I don't remember exactly. I think it was during 2000, maybe? Someone else has probably told you this and got the dates actually right. But at some point, we all jumped from TF2 over to Half-Life 2. I feel like that marks the sort of, in some ways, in retrospect, like the end of like pre-production really on Half-Life 2, and it becomes now like, let's build this thing and ship it.
Actually, the first thing I got told to work on was a jet ski. And I spent 3 weeks trying to figure out a jet ski in first person. I was like, okay, none of this is working. I can't.
I love the
I don't see
atmosphere
how-
on
how
these
do you do this
particular
without making people
screenshots.
Sick. So I remember one weekend out of frustration,
water
I just
hazard.
made the airboat. I don't know,
The
maybe
thick
it's the
fog
Florida
is
bit,
really
and
cool.
So Charlie Brown had worked on the airboat, and then we picked it up.
It's
a
not-
different
I'm
group.
sorry, it's
We-
really
we
funny
started
that
working
one
on
of
the
the-
canals, and we had this
Whoa.
idea of it was
They
going
just
to
had
be
regular
kind of
Apache
like a lot of
helicopters.
tricks under pressure, where you know you're doing like skateboarding type.
That
moves.
this is one
I think it
Valve
was
dev
Kelly
just called
Bailey
Charlie.
who
His name
basically
is just
said,
Charlie
you know,
Brown.
I'm playing the canals and I'm trying to do these tricks and I'm failing, and then I'm getting shot. And he's like, I want to be like Smokey and the Bandit. I just want to be smashing my way out. We did this whole other pass of the canals where we dialed down the consequences for failing the tricks, and we dialed up the feeling of, you know, power.
Some players absolutely refused to really stay in their airboats. They wanted to get out and look under every rock, behind every tree. For those players, we had to craft enough density through the lengths of the canals to keep them entertained and happy. And then there were people who just wanted to smash through everything and treat it like a racing sim. And so the game had to be fun and interesting for them, and sometimes that would clash.
If you stop here, we're going to give you a reward, basically, either a narrative reward or like an actual like in-game like reward. The Lambda caches, the Lambda signs, we use them a lot more in the canals, and part of that is literally because we did it afterwards. Like, I mean, I'd worked on coast maps, and we didn't have that yet.
You know, the canals are restrictive because we want you to drive this airboat through them, and we've got all these fun things to do. Like, you could jump over things, you could smash through things. The worst case scenario is
Water
you're
hazard
trapped
gang.
with people who have guns and they're shooting at you, and you don't necessarily have a way of shooting back. So, you know, that led to, well, we need to add a weapon to the vehicles.
Well, part of it was the helicopter was such a persistent pain in your ass that we really wanted to put a bow on that whole experience and give you some vindication, some, you know, vengeance, where you get to now hunt the helicopter. So as soon as we attach it, one thing we really intentionally did is you start to drive down the tunnel and the helicopter pops down in your face and it's blocking you, and you have no choice but to just shoot it if you want it to go away, and then you see it flee. And so it's like, oh, okay, the players could connect the dots, right? Now it's my turn. So the next sequence is all about chasing the helicopter down to that final battle at the dam. I remember we worked pretty intentionally to make it the ultimate showdown between you and the helicopter, and some of it was by accident. I remember Brian Jacobson, who did a lot of the code for that. At one point, it accidentally did this thing where it just spit out a ton of bombs, and we were like, that is awesome. Keep that. Make that part of the fight. You know, we tried to make it as action intensive as we could within reason, right? That battle was actually, in a way, we designed it
I
to
do
be
like
a
when
final
stuff like
exam.
that is
We
just like, oh,
unraveled those elements.
that was an
into the
accident,
levels
but it
beforehand,
ended
right?
up
You
looking
learned how to
cool, so
dodge
might as well
bombs,
just
you
leave it
learned
in.
how to shoot at it, and you learned how to shoot while driving, and then we throw those things together at you with a little bit
Yeah, I
of a
feel like the
twist.
boss fight
It
would
also
have
sort
been
of
a
like
bit more
crucible
underwhelming
because a lot
without
of good things came out
the
of it
bomb
because it was
spam, you
such
know?
a difficult design problem. The easy thing to do is to make a
Still wonder
punishing
where so many
design,
bombs
where
come
you,
from.
you just say you can't go here and we're going to shoot you and
I think
force you to
I remember
fail
seeing
and fail
a
and fail
fan
until you get to see the next part
concepted
of
a
the game.
design.
It's much harder to create something where the player feels there's an evolution, they have some power and some
where the
agency,
bombs
so
kind of
they're
fold in
free
on
to
themselves
be
and like
creative and
the
they can be
actual
creative
size of
in a
them
restrictive
like expands or something like that, just so that they can float in the water or something. It's fan made, so obviously that's not like canon, but it's a cool idea, you know?
So basically, had a whole car engine down to through transmission, down into gearing and differentials and turning the tires. But then it turned out like, oh, we can really.
Okay, I thought it was
only
hearing
go
weird sound.
15, 20 miles an hour. Otherwise, you would blast through the extents of the map in about 10 seconds, which wasn't going to do anybody any good. People made jumps, they made all these things. Nothing was working. So I was like, oh, you must be doing a jump. I'm just going to turn off gravity on the car for a little while and let it just go, and then gradually ramp it back in so that it actually felt like you were jumping.
It was interesting how like the dynamics of the buggy was so much about like the perceived experience versus how it actually like performed.
It just sounds like it's going faster than it is. So Jay and I worked really hard on these engine sounds and this fake transmission and doing all this stuff. But you're really going like 30 miles an hour maybe. So it's like someone just driving around in first gear.
Got pulled into Coast, one, because I was interested in working on more game stuff, but two, it was the
Yeah, I guess it isn't really that
group of
fast in
people
that retrospect.
utilizing the displacement tech, since it was more of a terrainy thing and outdoors, and we were trying to figure out how we wanted to use the displacements, meaning we knew we wanted the things to look more natural. There was a lot more geometry in those maps than our previous ones, given just displacements in general. We were always struggling with performance and trying to figure out how to make things a little bit faster, easier, or where we could make things do what we wanted them to do, but not necessarily cost as much as they cost.
It's much faster than walking speed. So you just signed up for building a huge amount of game. People can just stop and get out anywhere. So now you have this trade-off of density versus distance.
We got a vehicle we want to drive for a while, so make those levels long. But from Half-Life 1, we still had the philosophy of there should be something cool around every corner.
Yep.
Not like a monster popping out of you, but different reasons to be engaged in the world. So they would dot the coastline with little towns, and you knew if you went exploring, you'd always get some kind of reward for that. It might be a health pack and ammo, or it might be a character interaction. So that would let the player set their own pace and feel like they get to explore the world, and they're always rewarded for that. But if they wanted to drive straight through, they could.
I worked on like the area where there's the roller mines first come in, and you're going along a curving path, and then there's like they blow up all the rocks and drop stuff in front of your path to try and slow you down, and then you've got like a little house fight. There were cases early on where people would just try to drive past everything and be like, why would I stop at this if I've got a car? And so we really wanted them to like be fairly unavoidable, and so you'd have to get out and deal with taking them off your car, and then you'd be in the space. So it's really fun just jumping in there with the Combine soldiers and
no,
crafting
you
little
have to stop
fight
at this
scenarios.
house.
What makes AI fights interesting is not that they're the smartest or the best or anything. Like, it's easy to make AI that can just perfectly shoot the player and kill them. That's not what makes them smart. It's putting on a show that makes them feel interesting. So like in that fight in particular, you go up inside of a building and you get to the second floor, and you're fighting guys in there, and they kind of pull you up there. There's guys up in there, and as you go up and fight them, that happens. But then more guys spawn outside.
Stop the
Like, there's a
buggy
bunch of
now.
windows up in that top section, and there's a crate sort of near the window.
Millions
You go
of
over to get
buggies
that
must
crate,
stop.
They start shooting through the window at you. And it's not that the AI actually knows that you're there and starts shooting at the window the moment they see you. There's actually, we have these things called bullseyes that you could place in spots, and they basically would act like a target that the AI wanted to shoot. A lot of that isn't actually the AI being, doing this carefully crafted thing. It's more of us thinking like, what makes this like a neat presentation for the player and gives them that sense that they need to hunker down. Like later on in the same coastline, there's a sequence where you're fighting a gunship and you're in the lighthouse.
Love a gunship
and as
fight.
you go up the lighthouse, it's like sort of predicting where you are and shooting through the windows right in front of you and giving you that same sort of show. And that's all like bullseyes and things. Almost every game you play, you're developing a sense of mastery, and that actual sense of progress and mastery is the fun. Piecing it all together is
Man,
like, very core to it.
whoever's playing Half-Life 2 in the in the actual like little recordings they're doing here is not very good at
We
it.
did the player drivable crane first, I think, right? And
Yes.
then we went.
Looks
back
like they
and
just
used it again,
brought someone in to
you know,
play
at
it
the
for the first
start.
time.
Perfect tutorial.
Yeah.
Like it's perfect training. You're gonna. This is how that thing works.
Yeah.
Don't forget, because it's about to happen later. You have to do it.
We did actually get very close to the base of a crane. You know, obviously you want to be in the crane.
The
and be
G-Man
driving all
mural
these
on the
things, but yeah,
walls
we
is
did get up very close to this crane again.
kinda
I think he was
funny.
asking somebody who was just wanting to take some pictures for a video game. Could you just let us in? Try to act as like nice and non-threatening as possible.
My most
We
downloaded
did bug you
mod
to
is
get
a
in
mod
state
that
where
makes
it was flipped, so you could have
Crane
to
Lady
learn
shut up.
to
Very
recover it and all
telling.
that sort of stuff.
Like, oh, we're gonna flip it over, and then you have to proceed. You
It's
have
not
to
even
use
that annoying.
The gravity gun. We're just trying to wrap that in some sort of narrative instead of just spitting some text that tells you if this happens, you know.
That was it, you know. I mean, the
I
crane
forgot
Lady
how
hard physics
dumb
bug
like the
was, like one of the
the
worst
car
case
flip, like the
scenarios
obvious
in
like
physics
like it's not
really,
actually flipping because of
high mass
physics. It's
objects
because you
moving around.
hit it
Because
with the
they're gonna
the
apply
gravity
an
gun and it's
enormous
trying to
amount of
reset
force
itself.
to anything they touch. And we have a rigid body physics system. So in the real world, when giant heavy mass touches something, usually it crushes them. We can't really crush anything. So already we're in like a tricky place. The good news was we had a fixed space it could operate in, right? We could control how far you could extend the thing. And so as the level designers could look at it and be like, these are the only things that the crane will ever really be able to interact with. And so we could be pretty careful around, right, what are the things that that this magnet's going to touch, and let's make sure that at least the physics works pretty well for that.
So I worked on the bridge as one of the
Bridge is
really
awesome.
early things I worked on there, which was great. Sawyer had already built the bridge. It's actually based on Deception Pass. So Deception Pass is nearby here in Washington. Coincidentally, I actually proposed to my wife there. But anyway, it's this really nice bridge that, like, if you go there, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is the Half-Life 2 bridge. The fight against the gunship and everything wasn't really all put together. It was definitely had that like scary, you know, fear of heights scenario of going under the bridge, but we hadn't fully fleshed it all out yet. One of the first things I did was like, what
It
if
is
this was
funny
a
having
train bridge and
those
you had to do this,
walkways
you know, play chicken against the
there.
train, and getting the timing quite right was took a little bit of work, but hearing the like train horn come in and the moment of realization that players would have of like, probably some people die, a lot of people probably die the first time there, but you have this like, do I go faster or do I turn around? Like, what do I do? I don't know, it was a fun moment to create. All credit to Sawyer on coming up with the going underneath the bridge scenario. People to this day still are like, that freaked them the hell out. Like a lot of people were just, it's sort of seared in their memory, which is just, you know, it's what we want to do when we're creating levels.
Trying to like
Yeah, it's
capture
a
the
good
sense
map.
of height and playing with the ambient sounds to get the, you know, just to capture the sense of being
David
precarious
Spader.
and high above the ground was it was just a fun little design challenge.
David came up with that. And
Valve
we
finally
play
put
tested
out
it, and the
a
first time we
tweet
play
for
tested
the
it, I think
anniversary
person was play
stuff.
testing, their knuckles were white, and it was really tense. And of course, then someone had the brilliant idea of like, oh, they finally made it. They felt great. Now we're gonna make them go back. And the gunship, yeah, that came in, yeah. So that was always fun. There's this thing we call edge friction. So when you're moving, you have a friction that just reduces your normal movement rate by an amount. But what we would do is whenever players would get close to edges, we would increase that friction a lot so that people wouldn't accidentally fall off things. It's just not fun for the player, right? So there was definitely a bit of friction play involved there.
Gordon Freeman! Hurry, get in the basement. We're expecting gunships at any moment.
He became iconic for reasons I don't totally understand except the performance. We were calling that town New Little Odessa or Little Old New Odessa, and then I got spam email from Odessa Cubbage or something like that. It was definitely a name that came out of an email spam, and I'm like, this name is amazing. So it went straight into the game, and then John Lowry came in and acted him with his fake British accent.
Damn. Let me just send a warning to Lighthouse Point, and then I'll come right up and lend a hand.
I never even
Odessa
thought about the
Cubbage
fact
had
that
this
that's
whole
John.
problem of like training the rocket launcher. That was a real pain. The laser guiding aspect was just a nightmare to train, because training in combat's always a nightmare by itself, because people are under duress, trying not to die. They're focusing on some other thing that's threatening them. It's hard to observe what's going on rationally and draw lessons from it cleanly. So you always know it's going to be hard if you're trying to teach something you're trying to teach in combat. We watch a playtester, they step out and they fire a rocket at the gunship, and then they duck behind cover. So the laser dot goes onto the fence in front of them. We all hear the rocket turn around and start coming back, and so you hear
It's
like,
basically, here we go, 5, 4,
it's louder,
3.
and then the player looks out again at the gunship, and the rocket goes, looks around back at the gunship, and we're like, oh! And then he ducks back again, and we're like, oh my God! We hear the rocket getting louder and louder, and he peeks out again and whips off again.
An integrated part that I think has really always been important, something that Gabe introduced in Half-Life 1, was the way that we playtest.
Oh my goodness,
And
I
then
just peeked on
iterate really
Twitter
rapidly on the
for like
playtest
a
as well.
couple
So we have
seconds.
dozens and dozens of people come through one section of the game, and you sit there painfully, silently, taking notes while they struggle and get frustrated and totally
And there is some
misunderstand your brilliant
crazy
design.
stuff that I have not
And
gotten
then
to
you go
yet.
and you fix that over and over and over again.
I gotta wait.
If your title is game designer,
Had a
and
workshop
your design
support, yep.
sucks, then it can be threatening, right? Like maybe you're like, oh my
what's
God,
up?
I should get fired, right? And so a lot of the games industry never did any testing at all. With this playtesting process, that's what basically taught me design in a lot of ways. We would just, we'd come up with an idea for the helicopter, and then we'd be like, okay, let's put it in front of somebody and watch it happen. And then we'd very quickly start realizing that our mental model of like how people are reacting to this stuff
I just saw a thing
is
that was like
wildly
episode
different than
3
what we expected.
footage, where Gordon's like using a tool to make like an ice floor, like
I joined the
what they
team in January 2000.
dude
I
did
had
with
met Gabe
that
when
one
he was starting
with
Valve,
Kelvin from
and
Deadlock.
I was at Sierra Online. But pretty
Like,
much
what?
the first thing was,
Gabe was
I
like, need to see
"So
whatever that is."
When you're at Sierra, we did this deal with you for Half-Life and Half-Life 2. You need to go fix that because we don't like the deal that we did. The intellectual property for Half-Life was owned by Vivendi. The Team Fortress IP was owned by Vivendi. So it was get back our IP, get a better royalty rate, and then have the ability to experiment with online distribution. We knew we were going to grow the team, and then part of the deal was also that we were going to take on all of the funding responsibility for Half-Life 2, TF2, all those things. There was cash flow from Half-Life. We were figuring out how to do things here and there, like expansion packs.
They removed the plain
A
text
large
from
part of it was
Deathmatch
Gabe
2 and replaced it with the
tapping
actual logo.
into his assets. He had done fairly
Nice.
well at Microsoft, not crazy well, but things started to get a little thin.
The budget. Chapter 5, the budget. The lawsuit. Oh, yeah. Close enough.
So I assume you guys have talked to Scott or Eric
Carl
or somebody about
Quackenbush.
sort of the context of the whole.
Oh, he's the attorney.
Talked to Scott, Eric, and Gabe about it.
Sierra, by that point, had become acquired by Vivendi, had worldwide distribution rights, but only for retail packaged product.
Vivendi was licensing Counter-Strike to cyber cafes. We went to Vivendi and said, hey, this is not a big deal. Just agree that this is outside of your license. And, we've spent a little bit on attorney's fees, just cover, some tens of thousands, just cover us for that. And we'll move on and just keep going. And they wouldn't do it. I think some people at Vivendi did not like the new deal that they ended up signing. And I think there were some hurt feelings in some quarters about that deal. When we said, hey, the cyber cafe thing, you really can't do that. Coming on top of, a year negotiations and torturous negotiations, I think that just struck an angry chord. We ended up filing the lawsuit, but really just on this narrow thing of like, hey court, will you go just read this language and say, are they outside the license or not? And Vivendi decided to go World War III.
We filed our case in Seattle, federal court in Seattle.
They mad.
They hired a law firm to defend it,
Vivendi?
of course.
I've never heard of
There was
that.
some initial skirmishing
however you pronounce
about discovery. There were some disputes and motions that had to be decided by.
I actually
the judge,
didn't
and
know
those
this
went
was a
all
thing.
Valve's way. And then suddenly, the law firm disappeared. They hired a big scary law firm from San Francisco. They thought, okay, Valve's had some success in this case, and so we need to change their mindset from we think we're going to be successful to we're going to be destroyed. The next thing we knew, here comes this big stack of counterclaims, everything from canceling the 2001 agreement to obtaining ownership of all the Half-Life IP, to keeping us from doing Steam, to you name it, where they included Scott and Julie Lynch and Gabe and Lisa Newell, his wife at that time, personally, as defendants.
And so it was kind of like, well, we're going to put Valve out of business, and then we're going to bankrupt the two of you.
Man,
I think that was
that's
a lot
like,
of
I was
what they
going
felt
too
like
far,
was their
man.
path towards winning this fight.
They decided that it would have more effect and be scarier if process servers showed up at everybody's house in the night and yeah.
They were going to hire the Pinkertons on Valve. What the heck is that?
Trying to intimidate you. In other words, they're saying not only are we going to take all this money from the company, but we're going to take money from you personally as well.
What? That's crazy.
I can't think of another case when that happened.
They were certainly a lot bigger than we were. Vivendi was a multinational conglomerate. As compared to us, their funding was infinite. It felt very David versus Goliath.
Publishers at that time in the industry were used to being able to bully developers, right? And so this was really about an assertion of power as much as it was optimizing for a financial outcome. The tactics that they were using were trying to just run us out of money, right? So they knew how much money we were making because they were doing retail distribution of our games. And so they were just trying to crank up our legal costs as just another way of draining resources from the company.
We were protected from that a lot internally, so we didn't have to think about it. They did a pretty good job of letting the team concentrate on what the team could do without worrying about the future of the company so much. I mean, that was my perspective.
So yeah, I definitely was not shielded from that.
That's insane.
The lawsuit was something where it's like created all this uncertainty around whether the game's going to come out. Vivendi was definitely trying to use that as leverage.
Oh, that's cool.
And so even if we finish the game, they're not going to let us release it.
There
Alex
came a
Eli and
point where
Mossman in the Citadel.
Gabe had pretty much used up his liquid assets. And he was like, should I put the house on the market? And I was like,
dang.
Yeah, I think it's the time where you put the house on the market if we want to keep going.
The company was pretty close to going bankrupt. I was pretty close to going personally bankrupt. We went all in. It's like there was no money left. Like,
how anxious was that for you personally?
I don't know. There are certain things that I'm kind of a weird person in a number of dimensions. Like I don't really think, oh, this is super scary. Like I don't have an emotional response to it. I just say, well, this is what we're doing. This is how, and we'll see how it plays out. So I don't think it was super stressful to me, right? I mean, it didn't really bother me. Like I was diving in South Africa.
It was
recently,
unbothered.
A shark tried to bite me a couple of times.
Since
And the
when
people
was there a
around me
Half-Life
were
2
way
demo?
more
They
freaked out
they
than
just
I was.
added
I was like,
that.
oh,
That
shark's
I
trying to
think
bite me.
that's
I should
part of
get
the
away from
update.
the shark. Whereas other people were
I think.
having, like,
Well,
oh,
actually, I think I remember
shark,
seeing people
it's
talk
very
about
bad.
it like
Somebody,
yesterday. So I think it got added
and I
before
just
all
think
this
that's
other
how I'm
stuff.
wired. I don't think it's anything that speaks to my character or anything. It's like I just seem to not get particularly agitated around risk, which probably means I take on more risk than at times than most sane people would, which can be a positive, or you can wreck a bunch of other people's
Minerva's
lives
on the
being
workshop.
in the
Yeah, I saw.
neighborhood of your risk indifference.
It's cool that they put it there. But this, yeah, the workshop is gonna be so good for the modding, Half-Life 2 modding community. And people, I hope, should just be able to put their mods that they've already made for like Game Banana or whatever on the workshop. Hopefully. No compliance.
They're this rigidly structured, you know, organization. Of course, they're going to have this really terse language for everything they do.
Here's the
You know, there's sort
stuff.
of an announcer voice in that follows you around and kind of comments
Overwatch
status, essentially, like how
acknowledges.
alert the world is to you.
Remaining units contained.
I sat down and just basically wrote a language for that so that the soldiers and the Metro cops would have jargon that they would use.
Jargon.
Then I just used that to kind of encode.
I feel like
so that's
ModDB
where,
is going to
like,
suffer after
Anti-Citizen One and things like that came from, rather
after
than
the
saying
workshop.
the guy with the orange suit is causing
Oh.
trouble. You know, it would be, you know, Anti-Citizen One breach.
Maybe?
Scalpel something,
I don't know.
sector something. So I basically just had this little
Maybe
dictionary.
not, because
Then I
maybe there's some
overdid it
mods
with
that
vocal
can't just
processing,
go on the
because they're
workshop.
all wearing these,
Like,
you
could
know, these
Entropy
masks,
Zero
and I wanted
go
it
on the
to
workshop?
sound like they're in
The
a
first one, you
mask.
know?
And it was
Could
very
a mod
deliberate
like
to
that?
never
Could a
have
mod
to,
like
like,
Entropy
shoot
Zero 2 go
somebody
on the workshop?
that you can see their
Like, I'm
face.
thinking like,
Like, we didn't want you killing humans. I mean, the Metro cops are humans, but we covered all the faces up.
I'm thinking like, oh, that was interesting.
We don't want you killing humans. I mean, the Metro cops are humans.
Hair peeking out of the helmet. Also, that just looks weird. That big bump there. I don't know, cause like, I know mods like Black Mesa and EZ2 are on Steam, but like, what if there's some mods that Valve does not approve to go on Steam, as like separate, you know, mod titles? Like, are mods like that gonna be able to be on? Like, are those gonna be too big for the workshop? Are they gonna use a certain part of the I don't know. I don't know if those count. Like, those might still be a thing that ModDB. I know it's on Steam, but I'm saying, like, if a mod of Entropy Zero's size is not on Steam and is on ModDB and it doesn't get approved to get on Steam, ModDB might still be a place for it, because I don't think the Half-Life 2, I don't know if like those bigger Half-Life 2 mod projects are going to be able to be put on the workshop. Not because of anything like legal, because obviously that doesn't really matter if it's on the workshop. But I mean, like, well, it might if it's like Nintendo stuff, you know. But like, I don't know, because for example, like Half-Life Alyx, I think has like a file size limit or something like that for workshop mods, and I think Counter-Strike 2 does as well. So that's what I'm trying to say, as far as it affecting the excessive ModDB. Also, I think these are pretty high-res screenshots of
Humans,
these.
but we
I don't
covered
know
all
if
the faces
we've
up.
seen them.
I think it was all
that high
part
res.
of this calculated and deliberate way of saying, like, look, games don't just have to be a certain way. There's so much room in what we can do here.
Well, the Metro Police and the Combine Soldiers share a lot of AI, and so
Like,
there's
Raising the
internal
Bar
communication
Redux is not on Steam. But could they put it on the workshop? That's what I'm wondering.
among them. And one of the things we did both for
If they
the
can't, then
safety
obviously
and
ModDB
position
is still gonna be
was
fine.
Limit the
ModDB
number
will
of
be
squad
fine
members that
in
can be
that
firing
case.
at the player at any given time. I think it's 2. So if you have a squad of 4, a guy who has an opportunity to shoot at the player grabs one of those slots if it's available and starts to shoot. And if someone else, another squad member, wants to attack the player but no slots are available, they have to find the next best thing to do, which is I'll get out of the scene for a second, or I'll go reload, or I'll throw a grenade. And that was all stuff that we learned building Half-Life 1, and I think got a lot
Technically, you
better
can still
at.
use Nintendo and Half-Life 2 Workshop. You can mod it in Gmod stuff, then you can bypass it. Well,
Half-Life 2
Gmod
used the
recently
draft system,
got a
you know, hand
letter
personalized
from
by the
Nintendo
developers
to
and the
take
levels we
down all the
described.
Nintendo
A
Workshop
really
stuff.
super low
So
fidelity version.
that's
of
what I
the
mean
environment
when
for the
it
AI
comes
use.
to legality.
It enabled the level designers
They'll
to
if
sort of
they'll ask Gary
inject
Newman to
and
do it, they'll
control
ask
puppeteer a little
Valve.
bit the AIs in ways that were just easier for them to sort of be in control, as opposed to having to grab an animator or a programmer to be able to get really
I
cool
mean, like you
things
said,
in.
yeah, there's ways to bypass it, but like probably not not in a convenient way. ModDB has many mods that won't be on
Flora's
Workshop
Lava is
2.
like a really
Oh
obvious
yeah,
piece of gameplay.
yeah. There's also all the
physics
mods
is
that will
really
never
fun
be
to
on the
manipulate.
workshop
We
unless
just thought, like,
someone
hey,
who
you
isn't
know,
the
you could
creators is somehow able to upload it.
your own path. You know, we'd already.
And so
seen
it will
players
be
who
a place.
enjoyed
If nothing else, it will be an archive for older mods,
moving stuff around, like building bridges.
older
and
abandoned
stuff,
mods,
like,
or
we don't
older
have
mods
enough
that are
moments where,
done and the
I just pick
developers
up a
moved on to
plank and
something
lay it
else.
across a gap and walk across it, like obvious
You know,
stuff.
stuff
we've
like
barely
that.
done that in the whole game.
And the fact that you're laying stuff down on the floor means that the finesse required to do like precise placement wasn't necessary, right? You're like, I just want to place it here. And it doesn't matter the orientation, you just kind of jump on it and you do the next one and so on, right? And also like training was free. Like we didn't have to train it. It was like,
Yeah, everyone
stay
got
off
it
the sand, and it
immediately.
was like, oh, it's Flora's Lava.
Laszlo, the
Yeah, Laszlo,
finest mind of his
I
generation.
couldn't figure that one out.
He tells you exactly how to do it.
Someone's coming. You there! Stop where you are! Stay on the rocks! Don't step on the sand! It makes the antlions crazy! Laszlo, don't move! No. Help!
It's kind of crazy that Valve was going through a lot and had during Half-Life 2's development.
Poor Laszlo! The finest mind of his generation!
It's kind of surprising that they came out with that product as good as it was, with,
We were heading for the Vortigaunt camp,
you know,
hoping to pick up some bug
between
bites
the
of these
lawsuit
band-aids
and
leave us
the
alone.
person
Where
releasing
Laszlo?
Half-Life 2
What's the
before
point?
it's supposed to.
You just give these NPCs a name
You
at
know,
the
from
moment
all
they
sides,
die,
all that
and
stress
let
and
the
whatever.
fans fill in their whole life story and give them something to play with.
The Freeman will have need of these pheropods on the paths ahead. Gather them now.
Nova Prospect and the Antlions with the pheromone balls were really fun.
Half-Life 2
because it lets you
Overcharged is still
experience them in a
unmatched.
different way, and it
Half-Life
was
2
another classic example of
Overcharged is
getting the
still
most value out of
mid.
technology investments that people could.
I remember.
Yes,
the
let me
big thing,
re-add
the
a
design
bunch of like
intention was
beta
definitely
stuff
to
that were
make it
clearly
feel
cut for
like
a reason, and then
sort of
not
D-Day beach
even
landing.
tried to implement it in a way
You
that's
didn't
like
come from the
fun.
water, but you're storming
or,
up towards these old gun emplacements.
Like that makes
If I
sense.
remember right, with Combine in them, and you're
That's what Half-Life 2
invading
Overcharged
the
is.
bunkers, and you're bringing your horde with you. You're overwhelming the defense, these in place defenses. It was surprising how much chaos you could get away with. Like I remember we did a lot of tuning to make sure the
Like,
the
yeah,
Antlions
let's bring
spawned.
back
We had difficulties from
like
time to
Hound
time with,
Eyes,
like,
and then like give them
design some
wings for
choke
some
point or
reason,
challenge
and then
or
have
whatever.
them
The
block
Antlion
your
frame
path
rate
like every
wasn't
5
enough
seconds.
to make it feel chaotic enough. Like we had
And like make them like
atmosphere
way
feel
stronger
wasn't
than they
just
are
about,
supposed to be for some reason.
mechanically, can you overcome this? You wanted to feel like your forces
Like, yeah,
have
give you Hound
stormed
Eyes
the
before
walls,
you-
they're everywhere. There's
when
chaos
you only
all
have the
around
crowbar
you.
and the pistol.
And so a lot of the tuning was about achieving that feeling, not just about mechanically.
Would be nice to see
getting past
crewmeters, though. Oh, yeah.
The enemies that we'd set.
Nova Prospect was different than a lot of the maps.
Although
that
I feel
worked
like at
on,
this
least,
point,
is
if they
that
bring
we
back
had
crewmeters, that's going to
some
have to be a
early
prequel,
art
because I don't imagine them
prototypes that were done.
preparing them
We
in
have this
Half-Life
whole
3.
concept of like
I
zoom
don't
maps,
imagine a
we call
reason
them,
for it.
which are basically like little art test scenes, how they would fit together, and some basic lighting.
But by the time our cabal got to Nova Prospect, we knew we were coming in with Antlions and with bug bait, and so we already knew that a bunch of stuff was going to change because we had to support, you know, you and your army of Antlions fighting Combine soldiers. Antlions look great.
Yeah, so
whenever
I'm not
they're
going to be
being
able
shot
to
by anyone.
do
That
that.
particle flex
Half-Life
flying
2
off, you know, they just did
commentary
always look great.
stuff
And so setting them up against Combine
today,
soldiers looked great.
but I will
setting them up
definitely do
against
that
turrets
tomorrow.
looked great.
Those were super fun scenarios to work on though, because having these antlines that you could just use in any way you wanted was really fun. Like, and coming from the coast, like just the contrast of like shrinking everything down and then just piling it full of stuff was a lot of fun.
The first time I saw one of those, I think it was Ted Backman's concept. I just thought, I can't believe that I get to
Striders.
use a creature this cool in level
Yeah.
design. Like these guys are really, really, really fun to use.
I remember Kelly Bailey.
Strider's
had,
probably
created
like
a
one of
short
the
list,
coolest
things like he wanted
Combine
flocking flyers, and he wanted a
creatures
moving
ever,
guard tower,
to be
which
honest.
was the first description of the Strider, was a mobile guard tower. So I saw that and immediately understood that, you know, kind of orchestrating the enemies in that way, trying to get the most variety and the most breadth of shape and movement.
The
and,
giraffe neck Strider is
experience
kind of
was
funny.
The correct way to move forward.
The design for that first Strider map was something I came up with and I was really passionate about. It was all about like
running across and just getting like one shot in your tush, right? Just as you made it through.
Even just hearing the sound, the thump, thump, thump of them walking, like, you know, okay, there's like a boss nearby. You just see the legs walking by, but you can't see the body. Like, there are so many things you can do with these guys.
Honestly, there were still people on the team, I think, that were still thinking that we were going to bomb. That people are just going to not be impressed.
When did you know it was going to be good?
E3.
Yep.
E3.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing.
Yeah.
It seems like at some
Help.
point there was an E3
Help.
demo that we got together that we didn't end up showing, but at least at that point it just felt like, oh wow, we actually have made something here.
We went through and made a bunch of demos for 2002, and everybody looked at them and was like, we're still not confident about this, and we don't think we've hit the bar, so we're not going to go at all. Like, they had totally planned to go. And then when 2003 rolled around, I just remember everyone was still terrified. We were like, okay, how are we going to craft everything we've had into like a number of messages about what this product is? And like, we came up with like the core theme of each one of these movies.
Oh, do be careful.
We didn't really understand at the time, I think,
Greg
the
Coomer.
embarrassment of riches that we had. We looked at it from two angles. One was a set of technical features, a sort of conceptual listing of things that we thought were important, you know, like physics and things like that. And then the other side was content-based. What areas of the game were innovative, what areas of the story we thought were compelling, which characters we thought were worth people paying attention to. And so it was an interesting sort of marriage of which features and which content are the best showcase for all those things. A lot of what was in the
It's
demos
funny
was
seeing-
rendering technology, but I think the
It's
stuff
kind of
that
interesting
felt
seeing all like the
strongest
Combine
to
tech
most of us at the
before
time was really
they
physics
decided to
based.
make it more Combine-like, was just like regular military stuff. Like the Combine.
Like wood, then it sounds like wood, scrapes like wood, floats like it, and if you shoot it, it'll fragment like wood.
So is this the recording they showed?
To people
That's
at
awesome.
that time, it was pretty mind-blowing just to watch the thing, be able to pick things up, knock other things over.
Yeah, 'cause
use
before-
things in a way that felt true
On
to
the
a
E3
three-dimensional
demo,
reality.
I think we
Maybe
only
it's
saw
on those
someone
videos, I don't
recording it.
remember, but people were gasping and, you know, hitting the people next to them because they couldn't really believe what they were seeing on the screen.
There's no limitation on the complexity of those interactions. So it's this level of believable and consistent interactivity that opens the door to a wide variety of new gameplay mechanics.
Now this will run on my 486.
You know, that person who was talking about a 486, like obviously it's just about, like, you must have a supercomputer behind, like, how are you even doing this? What is going on?
They probably thought it was like you needed a computer to run Crysis or something to run Half-Life 2, which is kind of funny.
The lines outside the booth became enormous, and it was the thing that it really distorted the rest of E3 because so many people were anxious to come see our demo.
And I remember seeing this absolutely enormous line with like some pretty well-known people in there, right? Miyamoto was in line for this stuff.
Oh,
Like,
Miyamoto?
Will Wright, I think. Yeah, Will Wright. There was a bunch of, and so then like, yeah,
Dang.
after that was all done, like people on the team were just like, okay, we are ready. We can ship this game. We know we've got something good. It was really easy at that point. Like it felt like we were rolling the ball downhill after
Until it
that.
leaked.
Until it leaked.
Yep, till it leaked. TF2 Coconut.
When something like this happens, there's not like a big sign saying you've been hacked and somebody has access. Like, you start off with something that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and you start pulling on that sweater thread.
Gabe's brother had a company called Tangis, and they made wearable computer stuff. So he was kind of winding it down, and he had 1 or 2 Unix servers that hosted the Tangis.com domain name. Unfortunately, they were put inside the firewall and didn't have the latest Linux or whatever security updates on them. And so this kid from Germany was able to sort of exploit his way into that. He sat there for months, I think. He was able to sync the build, all the source code.
I was riffing ideas for, I think in particular, Counter-Strike. That information ended up on one of the internet chat rooms. And only 2 people knew the contents of that email. It was, of course, Gabe and myself. And I went to ITG and said, this could only have come from a leaked email. We got to figure out how that got out there.
But I remember at some point Gabe walking around, you know, like one of those moments like, turn your computer off, something just happened.
That's right.
Like I remember the video on my desk and he called me like, turn your computer off, I think we're being hacked. And I was, what? Like, I didn't know what to do. I actually didn't know what to do.
I
would have
remember
been
coming
scary.
in that morning and figuring it out, and it just felt like someone had just punched me in the gut.
You know, it's like the bit in movies where, like, after an explosion, they'll have a scene where someone's like staggering around the street and everyone's like,
yeah.
What's this mean? Like, can we still keep working on the game?
Yeah.
Like, is someone just going to release the whole game tomorrow?
And I don't know if the guy who hacked it intended to. I think,
Yeah, he showed
I don't
it to
think
friends.
He intended the wide distribution.
He
yeah.
showed it to friends, and then one of his friends posted it somewhere.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that's pretty interesting is how much the leak of the game, the hack of our network and the leak of the game, how much that kind of shattered that confidence.
It was like, you know, having a movie that you're working on be spoiled for the world. That's how it felt. Because we knew it would be hard for people to know that that existed and not go look at it all. It looked all broken to us, and it just felt really demoralizing.
Oh man, I was seriously affected by that. I was pretty angry. So I don't know. It kind of affected me for a while. You know, having it called the beta when it was not even close to being a beta. Work in progress, you know. Wasn't really ready to be seen yet.
Normally the office is pretty vibrant and loud. And people
Oh,
writing
was it like an
speakers in the
alpha
hallway and doing
more
all
than a
sorts of
beta
stuff,
or
Gabe
something?
Tube and throat singing, and it got very still and very quiet. I remember that. That was very eerie. That was the game that was going to make or break the company. We didn't know if we were going to have to go find jobs.
Not only did it show everybody that we were not anywhere near where we said we would be, but all the work that we had in progress, all the plans that we were making were just laid out bare. And so a lot of us just thought, oh, we're toast. We've worked so hard. Are we going to go bankrupt? And then all that while Scott Lynch and Gabe were being sued by Sierra. Their,
Oh, yeah.
wives
That
and
happening
living
at the same
subpoenas.
time
And
is
so
crazy.
It was this super dark time.
So there were two interesting threads going on. One was, you know, traditional law enforcement and intelligence agencies, and they were doing their thing and issuing subpoenas and seizing devices. And then we asked our community to help us out. And I think Axel Gembe started to realize that he was being tracked down by the community, right? Everything was being, essentially, it was an open source investigation. So you could see that they were getting closer, and that's when he reached out to me. Of course, I was insanely furious with him, but we ended up running this sort of scheme with him where I was like, oh, wow, you must be really good at security issues. We should have you come out and interview. And the FBI was going to arrest him when he got off the plane.
And then apparently the German police sweep in right as he's about to leave, because it turns out he's also guilty of a bunch of bank fraud and bank hacking and all that.
He had
kind
hacked
of
a
stuff.
bunch of huge companies over there as well, and so they were already well aware of him.
How much
That wasn't very smart of him to
or like how much
accept
the
that
success of the game was harmed
opportunity.
by that. Very debatable. You know, so it was hard for us to go through internally, but in the end, I wouldn't have wanted to have it be a whole like law enforcement debacle after that. It just
It was kind of funny seeing all the stuff they're showing, and it's actually not nearly as much new stuff as I think they showed in
because at the end of the day, the special
the Half-Life
sauce is
1
everything
beta
that
and
happened
alpha, you
between
know.
the moment of that leak and when we
They're
actually
like
shipped. And if
so
you look at
much
that
of the Half-Life 2 beta
version
got
of the
leaked.
game,
There's
it's
actually
so
not
what
nearly
the
as
game ended
much
up being.
left to
And so
show.
even if our
You
competition
know,
had all the source code,
like the Half-Life
and
Alpha
that
and stuff like
executable,
that was
they're
almost
still
got
not
lost.
able to produce Half-Life
You know,
2 from
it's
it
like it was like
because
lost
the
media.
company kept moving forward, and the company was the interesting special sauce.
Oh yeah, Steam.
Gabe in particular, he had kind of a pencil sketch of an idea in his head of what would become Steam, but it was clear that Team Fortress Classic and then later Counter-Strike, it was was fundamentally the thing that we were really attracted to was our ability to ship content directly to our customers. I mean, there was a set of business goals that ended up being part of Steam, but fundamentally it was a bunch of game development goals that it was servicing that were so attractive.
That's
to us.
crazy that
It was a very weird
Steam was
time.
like one of
I
the
don't
first
think people understand how
PC
many times we would go to
platform
people and say, no,
game
you will be
sellers
able to distribute
online.
software over the internet, and have people just say, no, it will never happen. I'm not talking about one or two people. I mean, like 99% of the companies we talked to said it will never happen. Your retail sales force will never let it happen. But also people would say users aren't going to want this, right? People want physical copy. Like there were so many bad faith arguments that were being made. Retail sales is not the goal, right? It's actually an impediment that it's somebody who sits between you and the customer.
And we ended up going out to finding this company called Applied Microsystems.
And that
So we
Steam
ended up
is
hiring
still
most
like
of
the
the
top
original
dog
Steam
as
team
far
from
as
that other company
like even
to
if
build
Epic comes
initially
out
this sort of
came
in-game
out and
advertising streaming model, but
is
then there
like,
was
oh,
the
we have all
epiphany
these
that,
free
hey,
games
it's
every
just
week.
bits. Why don't we just download whole games this
Oh,
way? You guys
it's
go
like
off
it
and do
doesn't even matter
The
because Steam
decision
is just
to not only use Steam to
like
ship Half-Life 2,
the
but
perfect
actually to require
PC
Steam,
game
even
selling
in, like,
platform.
versions that were
Still.
purchased at retail in a box, was the most interesting decision of all those, because it turned out to be an incredibly important decision for the future of the company. And a lot of us were nervous, and a lot of the people who had been at Valve for a long time, since the very beginning, were the most nervous about that decision. And so it was one of the rare exceptions to our decision-making process usually, and Gabe had to really step in and say, no, actually, we're doing it this way.
Yeah, it's nice
I
to
remember
see them
coming
actually
to work
double
in the
down
morning,
on it because
working
they
at
know
Half-Life
it's a
2,
good idea,
which
even
meant,
though
you know, by the
even
time
if
we
everybody
go home at
else
night,
thinks
me
it's
being
terrible.
a 24-year-old idiot.
It's
all I
nice to
wanted do
see
was
stuff
keep
like
working
that
on the
like
game.
end up being
And,
successful.
you know, I started just making the game work on multiplayer, right? You know, mostly just working on prediction, like what would it feel like to have a gravity gun on a multiplayer setting, right? Getting physics objects to work. You know, it was just curiosity.
Oh,
I
they're talking
started
about
off
Half-Life
with
2
some working
Deathmatch.
on it. And he's like, I'll make a map, and then we play. Put the map up, we started playing in the office in between, you know, builds of Half-Life 2, like playtest. And I remember Gabe walking by my desk. And I remember him going like, what's that? And I said, oh, it's Half-Life multiplayer. And he's like, show it to me tomorrow. And he just walked away.
Is one of the advantages of the general cost we always pay to keep our code in a single code base. So when we're working on TF2 and Half-Life 2 at the same time, at that point, we're paying this continuous cost in Half-Life 2 for the fact that it's built upon an engine that's designed to do multiplayer. But it means that when you get to this later point where you start asking, well, can we build multiplayer deathmatch out of this? Like the code's all sort of built upon a fundamentally a client-server sort of foundation.
Definitely the most entertaining thing that you could throw at somebody that happened to be scattered around the world was picking up a toilet and hurling it at someone's head,
Oh,
and then
Scooby
having that
toilet
show up
reference
in
in
the upper
the
right corner of your screen.
Deathmatch.
with name, toilet name, was very satisfying.
I was also selfishly trying to get the game ported to multiplayer so then we can release the tools, the SDK, ready to go. Like it meant
Versus
like
Lost for
Marvel
Words.
could just immediately start
I
making
mean, yeah,
game,
it's
mods rather than waiting for us
I
to
love
do
this
it or
stuff, man.
someone
I
else
love
to pick it up.
Half-Life. I love the
We were so
developers
heads down
comfortable
working on
talking
Rework
about
on
it
we didn't
in the
really
first
get a
place.
chance to play the train station.
I remember that
They
that
used
was one of
to
the lessons that came
hate
from
talking
Half-Life
about
1
it
is, like,
at all.
we need to be building these games backwards in a sense. The first thing we're going to put in front of people is the thing we built when we're as good as we can be at it. You know, we know our tools and things like that. And a lot of the anxiety over are we building a good game was behind us. And I felt really confident, yeah, we're building a really good game.
End of the line. End of the line TF2 update?
We're entering the Gare d'Austerlitz. And this train station is very important because it's one of the main inspirations for the train station of City 17 where the player starts. The reason why I'm using a Parisian station produced by Eiffel, who did the Eiffel Tower, is that there's an
Well, that
identical
must be the
station
all those big cords over there must be the inspiration for all the like gigantic cables you see in
Eiffel, who
Half-Life
did the Eiffel
Alyx.
Tower, is that there's an identical station in Budapest.
Train station's the last bit we worked on, right?
Yeah.
And we always want to build the start of the game late, as late as we can, because we understand our game at that point.
In general, the train station was a really interesting problem because it was basically one big choreo sequence intended to deliver atmosphere and story and background and sort of set your expectations for the world.
We let the level designers who were really good at this stuff.
Yeah, that would explain
figure
why
out what
the
was a
first
good
part of
experience.
Half-Life 2 was
And then we
kind
were
of the
kinda
most
always
polished
there
in
to
some
provide
ways.
Dialogue, acting,
You know,
stuff like
had
this
the
guy.
most stuff in it.
I think it was pretty clear too that we wanted to provide incentive to the player at this point about how people were being mistreated, about how bad the situation was here, and kind of start to trigger that righteous indignation early.
All this
Surprised
stuff
I
is fun
haven't,
to look at. You just assume it doesn't
seen
move,
Kelly
or you
Bailey
can't
talk
interact
too much
with it,
about
you
the
can't
sound
pick it
design or
up.
music
because
yet.
all the stuff we're going to do later with the gravity gun and everything, like first we
Like, I
gotta
know it's
start
not all that
designing
different
stuff
from
like
Half-Life 1,
that food,
but,
you know, that little empty bit of food.
I mean, it
you
happens
know,
like
we
the
throw
moment
There's
you
more,
leave the train, wind comes and blows
ambient
the
tracks
away.
in the
You
Half-Life
can see
2.
the Vortigaunt, sweep
Sounds
it,
are
it's
kind of
like
iconic.
Guy pushing it on the case,
Even though
on the
and
a
all
lot
those
of them
things
are
fall
kind of
off.
like
Yeah,
stock
you pick
sounds,
those
but
up and
We were
yeah.
like, if it doesn't have to be bolted down,
Yeah,
just
it's-
make
you
sure that it
just-
gets knocked
it
over.
can move.
I like to see Kelly Bailey talk more about
This
his
guy looks
process of
vaguely
making
familiar.
them.
There's something about the way he walks.
It's like a
Look at
beer
that.
drinker.
Who would have thought Barney has the capacity to go undercover, right? Like that seemed to be, above his pay grade, above his intelligence pay grade from the get-go.
Look at that beautiful animation. But where does hat go? It's gone. Something is not right here.
Magical.
We were trying to figure out how to get people to figure out how to pick up things and do things. And we were all just sitting around because we've been having this problem for weeks, racking our brains. And I think Robin had a Coke can on his desk. And at some point I got frustrated and I smacked it off his desk. I'm like, well, you pick that up then. And everyone kind of sat around. I was like,
No way. That was the
It sounded
inspiration for
just an
that?
immensely satisfying piece of like a storytelling and world setting. We got to use our physics tools and the choreo tools and all of those things blended together into this very simple,
Yeah,
clean
the
moment.
mask where the
Handcuff is
sun don't
perfect
shine.
also because while it's teaching you how to manipulate objects, it's also telling you something about the Combine themselves
Yeah,
and the Metro Cops,
and your relationship.
right? Yeah, so like it was a twofer, right? We got those two at the same time.
Physics is going to be a big part of our game. By the time you left train station as a player, like you understood that and you come to appreciate it because we couldn't wait until you got to Ravenholm before you found
Yeah.
out how awesome physics is. If you'd had any kind of weapon, I think they would have had to kill you. And we found the longer we sort of held that away from ourselves, the more we were forced to come up with stuff that was still entertaining that you could do. Like the raid is a whole,
Yeah.
in the tenements, is a whole thing that could work because the player could only run.
We don't very often force the player into a very specific set of actions. That's one of the few times that we had to learn to really corral the player, and I think it ended up being pretty successful. Like, I think the consequences for sort of not following on the clear path were quick and efficient.
Get in here, quick! Keep moving, head for the roof!
So when you build a world, I start with the infrastructure. What's really interesting for me is what it's not visible to the tourist, which is the courtyard, the backyard, the shafts and the smokestacks and the wires. And every city has this whole existence, and people are usually blind to it, and we tend to look at storefronts, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it came down to art direction. I mean, Victor was very, very familiar with all that, the look and feel. There was certain patterns and certain, iconic shapes that anybody who lived there could pick up on. You know, they're like, oh yeah, my grandmother had that dress or whatever. And my parents are from Argentina, and so they have that kind of sensibility, but a lot of it came down to the reference gathering, which was from Bulgaria, from Paris.
We have these buildings.
Bulgaria
that,
is
again, have,
Half-Life 2 in
back
real life.
courtyards. They have big
I can't believe they
staircases. They have
based a
cellars,
real location
attic
off of
spaces,
Half-Life
cellar
2.
spaces, and the apartments have big windows and thick walls. So this was providing already a lot of context for people who can hide in these apartments.
Stop! We didn't do anything! They'll be looking for you now. You'd better run.
I remember that we wanted to have the player see proof that the Combine were evil people, not that they were gray in any way, that they were objectively the bad guys. And then we had it to where you go upstairs, and then we really carefully and intentionally framed the reveal of the world to where you see the Citadel front and center, and it's clearly in an alert state.
The four of us, the City 17 Cabal, we'd done City 17, which is a bunch of hard problems. We'd done Ravenholm, which is a different set of hard problems. We were like, I don't know, 4 months from trying to lock down the game or something. I mean, it was really late. I may have the dates wrong, but it was really late. And there was a bunch of gameplay that was in there that hadn't really received a lot of like development.
We were coming from working with pretty much every tool in the game in C17 to going back to basically you have a pistol and metric ops. Not much really. So John Guthrie and I absolutely love exploding barrels, so we just used them absolutely everywhere we could. You set them up. We loved ragdoll magnets and physics. It's just one of my favorite tools. It's basically you have a point in space that when a character dies, they turn into a ragdoll, and then you have a ragdoll magnet that says, okay, if there is any ragdoll in this radius, pull towards me, and then you can give it a strength. And so if somebody dies in an especially dramatic location, you can have an especially dramatic death.
Oh.
And
I didn't know they specifically
I mean, you can use it to just pull someone
had,
directly down. So in that bridge, the train bridge, I put magnets directly beneath their feet, so it looks like they just, like the planks beneath their feet broke and they just fell directly down. I mean, they died from a broken plank, which doesn't make any sense, but they looked pretty cool. It was so
that they had like a
I guess,
particular like gravitational pull whenever you
have a lot of
shot at them. That's cool. I didn't know it was like that thought out, you know. I just assumed the explosions.
Yeah, our team was the one that did the Citadel. You know how I said that there was multiple
did
passes
that
on the
much
product over the course of the thing. Well, Citadel had almost no
themselves.
pass. And we were thinking about Street War, and we were like, well, we just had like this incredibly intense, you know, Strider fight. How are we going to outdo that, especially when we only got a month to do this thing? We then came up with the idea of like, well, what if we made this just be your god, and this is the reward? You've won the game. Enjoy. We're going to like break all the rules and let you be god for a little bit.
Picking up, you know, the enemies as ragdolls and throwing them around really came out of that development tool, because you could pick them up and move them around, and people are like, I don't know, that's pretty fun. Why can't we do that in the game?
It was either a week or a day. It was incredibly quick. I had every single mechanic of the Citadel mocked up. The Combine ball was actually a very, very heavy watermelon that would bounce around and eventually break up. I had spikes in the wall that you could skewer them on. We had electric fields that you could throw them in. We had the zero-G fields.
Oh, the spikes would have been
They
cool.
would get stuck in. And we had ripping off the machines.
I don't think
off
the
walls.
spikes
All that
ever
stuff all came together within
came to
an incredibly
retail,
short
though.
period of time, just a couple days.
That I
Very
can think
shortly
of.
After that, people were like, you know, we were having a real hard time with the AR2's alt fire. So maybe we'll just steal this because it's kind of cool, and we'll bring it earlier in the game. Game development never does this. It never like just materializes out of nothing in that short a time and is just something that everybody's excited and happy about. And it just it felt really good to be a part of that.
The lawsuit is still happening.
I started
That'd be so
working
lame.
on trying to find another source of funding to keep Valve going. I started working on a deal with a big publisher that was for Counter-Strike 2. So we're right there, ready
Counter-Strike
to
2?
sign. We're really
That's
kind of
not happening
running on
yet.
fumes at that point, and then get a phone call, and they're like, "Yeah, we changed our mind. We're not doing the deal." You know, I remember one conversation
that's
with
lame.
Dave, which is like, he was like, "So how fucked are we?" And I was like, "Well, we're kind of screwed. We could probably reformat everything that we're doing, but it means we lay off people." And we still have the huge uncertainty of what is going to happen in the lawsuit. Immediately started chasing another publisher, and were able to get a deal done with another publisher for Counter-Strike 2. When we got the deal done, Gabe at that point was super into knives, and as the deal gift for the party,
At the time, it was called. It was just called Counter-Strike 2.
Inscribed Counter-Strike 2. And so the deal structure was, after we ship Half-Life 2, if you decide that you don't want to keep moving forward, then you can just decide to terminate the deal and we'll pay the money back. That ended up happening. So maybe a good choice, because it took us a long time to ship Counter-Strike 2. So that we got done in probably May of 2003. And then through some more depositions, Vivendi figured out that we had gotten this new infusion of capital and kind of lost their mind.
It's
trying
weird
to
to
figure out
see them
how did
talking
that
about
happen,
like it being
because
Counter-Strike
was
2, and it's just
clearly part of
Counter-Strike
their
Global
strategy
Offensive.
was, running us out of money.
But what we decided was, hey,
Counter-Strike
let's
Source.
focus on.
Are they
the real
talking about
nub
Counter-Strike
of
Source
this,
or
and
Global
the thing
Offensive?
that's gonna
Because Global Offensive's like
lead to a
2010 or
resolution.
something, right? Like
Getting
around that time.
The judge to decide that we were.
Because that's
right
way
about
after
the
Half-Life 2 came out, I
cybercafe
think.
business,
Like more
and
closer to
also
Portal
decide
2.
that we were right that if you were distributing these properties without a license, that's copyright infringement. You know, we had asked for information about what they were doing in Asia, including Korea, and they, I think, to try to make our lives more difficult, produced a big chunk of documents in Korean that were in Korean. I mean, everything from email to contracts to you name it.
And one of the things they were doing is just dumping huge amounts of discovery on it to force us to go and just have somebody go and look through it. It's like, oh, look, they ordered sandwiches again, right? It has nothing to do with the lawsuit. It's just an attempt to overwhelm us with tens of millions of pages of documents on the assumption that there's nothing in it that will be particularly
These publishers are
problematic for
like
their case.
comically
They will
evil.
eventually will either spend a bunch of money, which plays into their hands.
Hey, bro, just chill
or
out.
We'll just eventually give up because it's finding a needle in the haystack. And then we found the needle in the haystack, and that changed things quite dramatically.
It just so happened that there was an intern, summer associate, who was a native Korean speaker. And I said, Andrew, hey, can you look at this pile here and can you just tell me what's in there?
I would guess that particular intern probably went through a couple thousand documents that day, and only one was consequential.
And they said, well, there's these other emails between these vice presidents where one says something like, hey, we destroyed those Valve documents like you asked.
Oh.
And I said, are you sure it says that? And I said, yeah, that's what it says. And so, of course, that led to a conversation between me and the lawyer for the other side about.
No wonder Game was so adamant about Steam.
It
Yeah,
looks
no
like
kidding.
You guys are destroying evidence. What's up with that? They said, you're out of your mind. Whoever translated doesn't know what they're talking about. And I talked to Andrew again. I said, well, it looks like we're going to have a kind of a fight about this. Are you? We're going to need an affidavit from you about your translation. Can you tell me a little bit about your Korean skills? He goes, well, I'm a native speaker. At UCLA, I majored in Korean language studies. And I said, that's good. That sounds like we're in good shape.
The assistant general manager in Korea sending the letter to the general manager of Korea saying, I have destroyed those documents related to the Valve case as directed.
That's so like I know I just said it's comically evil, but that's literally out of like I don't know, like a fiction movie or something like that. Like, oh, I destroyed all the evidence just as you asked, my lord. That sort of like,
Which
bro.
I think is one of Carl's happiest moments as a lawyer in his entire career. Just like stuff like this never ever happens.
I did a lot of lawsuits for a long time. I never saw anything like that. Never. Maybe there was document destruction that couldn't be proved, but that was like we're talking about it in writing. I'd never seen that before.
The children's
At that
cartoon
point,
villain,
Doug
yeah,
Chili
it
said,
really
"All
was.
matters of fact are now, according to Valve, you don't get to contest any of those. Now we're just discussing how much you're going to have to pay and what the damages are."
And Gabe was still pretty mad. He was mad. He really didn't want to settle. He was mad enough that he wanted to keep going. But I remember sitting down with Carl and having a conversation with Carl, and I was like, "So Carl, what do you think? Should we settle at this point? Is the right number?" And he was like, "Well, there's this old saying, there's a difference between
The
being a
spray
pig and
thing.
a hog."
Carl was done with the deposition, and that was the only question I asked him to ask that particular witness was, is Half-Life 2 being replicated and shipped to retailers? He said yes. And the relief was, hey, no matter what, at least the game's going to get out to people, which is kind of that's a pretty unusual way to find out from your publisher that they're shipping your game to retail.
Yeah, it's good that Sierra is not a part of publishing
I kind of been thinking about
Valve
this
games anymore. That's
for the last few
ridiculous.
days, and what if there was one thing that I can point to that made us successful over that development period? And I think that it was really this culture that Gabe created, where
I
we
think
were
that
hiring
people wouldn't be
that
so
were
gratuitously
senior enough to be
malicious, but I guess
managers, but
if
also
it's full of
passionate enough
surprises,
to
yeah.
still be individual contributors. They were willing to stake their credibility and their name on these big features, and sometimes spend years working on those features.
Yeah, and it was like 6-7 days a week. 10
Almost
to
done with the
14 hours a
doc, my
day.
goodness.
It wasn't
It's like
always,
almost 8 o'clock
I
now.
would say a good 18 months at least. But a lot of good memories though. I mean, everyone in that room has such great sense of humor. Like we knew each other's sense of humor. We trusted each other, we respected each other enough that like we could rib each other without like stepping on each other's toes and stuff, and it just worked pretty well.
It was just bigger, more pressure, but and I think that seriousness in some ways, there's still humor, but that seriousness kind of infuses into the game. You feel it.
Actually, if Victor Antonov's with Valve right now, at least talking about the doc, I wonder if he's come back to Valve.
As a company, the whole company.
Because I think he's worked at
and got it done.
like
I think back on this experience, and it was a
with Arcane on like Prey and Dishonored. I don't know if he's part of the Prey team, but like Dishonored, like that team that worked on like Dishonored and Dishonored 2, he was part of, and I think that version, that part of Arcane got I don't remember if it was all of Arcane or like Arcane France or something like that got shut down. But something like that, and I think it was the team that he worked on, which is unfortunate, but yeah, that's how the game industry is nowadays. I wonder if he's like back at Valve because of that or something, because he'd have to go somewhere else, right?
really hard time, but I feel super grateful because we were supported to make the very best game that we possibly could, and given the time to do it, we're going to ship it when it's done, even when we made unreasonable promises about when that might be in advance. And it was also at a time.
What the? That guy looks like, I forgot his name, but he plays Han Solo.
Before the game industry was quite as specialized as it is now, where people got to wear multiple hats and contribute in all of these different ways.
I'm surprised not more of the voice actors showed up.
I'm really grateful to have been part
like
of
when they were talking about Merle Dandridge, I guess she might be kind of busy right now. But I wouldn't imagine she'd be too busy for this. Because in one of her interviews she was saying she would make time for voice acting even when she was working on a lot of projects.
The fallout of Half-Life 2
Mark
shipping was the
Wahlberg, no.
realization that we
Harrison
can't-
Ford, yes.
We can't do 6-year-long bet the whole company bets over and over
I was
again.
thinking
and
he
all-
looked
if
kinda
we
like
get it
Harrison
wrong
Ford.
one time,
we're a big crater in the ground, as Gabe would say. And so we started to think about episodic releases.
The first idea when they pitched it to us, like,
But it doesn't seem like they're going to talk too much about the episodes.
How much? 12 months?
You know, nearly as
we were
much
gonna
as
have, like,
One a
alternating
year.
teams.
Yeah.
coming out every year and a half, something like that.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, this is neat.
as
But
the
then,
main game. So
yeah, it
I
just
wonder if
got
they
out of
will
hand.
like on it
So when they
on the
decided to start
anniversary. You
playing
know,
with episodic
what the
content,
heck?
the
Half-Life 2, if it was released in 2014. Let me see that.
Out of hand.
That's kind of a cool
So when
paint thing. But like, like, you know that that picture that went around that had like the blue crowbar, and it was like it kind of looked like a beta Half-Life 2 beta screenshot, but with like high res assets or something like that. But it was like very like obviously it was fake. Like, why is the crowbar blue and all this other stuff? That's kind of what this looks like.
They decided
but like
to start
more
playing
on
with
model with
episodic
Half-Life 2,
content.
you know.
The promise for me that I felt was we can build
Oh,
smaller
that's the
pieces,
storyboard?
denser pieces faster.
That's cool.
And we know what we're doing. We're going to be really good at this.
So a lot of it was like, you know, do more with less, like keep a bunch of the existing
That's
stuff
interesting.
and retweak it to make some
So-
new interesting scenario.
Yeah, we haven't seen all that much beta stuff for the episodes, have we?
Like probably
It's
the-
mostly
the
just
biggest
base
real
Half-Life
new
2,
thing
right?
For episode 1, as far as technology, was just having Alex.
Because
be
I've never
throughout the
seen
entire
that beta
thing, having her
intro
behave
of
in a
episode
way that was
1,
believable and fun.
where apparently
You know,
there's
she's
like a
with you at
concrete ceiling
two
above
distinct parts in Half-Life
you,
2,
and
but they're always pretty heavily
uh,
scripted and not really in combat.
the
Having
dog
her
is
there
freeing
and
you.
able to actually be a useful companion. So there's a lot of little tricks that we did to try to make that as fun as possible for players. She doesn't have supernatural knowledge. She's not like just finding things without you lighting them up. But like if you throw a flare out or you look at them with the flashlight, it's like, okay, she's going to go for that target because she can see it.
We were like cranking on that, and it took forever. Like we were not just partying, hanging out.
Blue Crowbar is definitely had giveaway that's fake, yeah.
Project, yeah, we were crunch mode, and then.
Dabe Egg basically confirmed that like
at the same time as episode 1.
I
and so
think
we
he
ran
tried to make.
for, you know, an
Oh my
extra year.
goodness. Okay, this is a lot of stuff. Was it something like he wanted to make Gordon Freeman look like really different? Gabe Newell's like, why are you getting rid of the HEV suit? So it seems I feel like that's gonna be the same for the sequels. You know, Gordon Freeman's always gonna wear an HEV suit and hold a crowbar. So Antlion tunnel sketches, that's
and
cool.
So we ran for, you know, an extra year that way.
There's the victory mine, nice.
Which allowed us to.
These are so cool, man.
And push.
I really like these. Like these are clearly like photo bashes, and it's like this weird, uncomfortably like realistic images, like with like the Half-Life 2 view model on top of it. I'm pretty sure some of these like photo scan stuff are like textures that are used for like the sky cards in like the skyboxes.
More.
Like I'm fairly certain I've seen this mountain, and these are clearly like the rock faces that you can see.
So the hunters
in
were initially
episode
something that we wanted to
1 and 2.
have a more sort of frenetic pursuit built into the design of the character. So it was really focused on, at the time, creating a creature that could follow.
It's like something you'd see in the weird dreams,
One
yeah.
of the questions was, how do we keep Alex out of your way during
Or some
this
variation of
really
the HEV,
intense,
yeah.
high action scene
Like
where
if
player
the
has
HEV suit was
to make
different, it would
whatever
have to be
decision
a
they
Mark
want about where
6,
they
and
wanna be
you'd
inside
still
the house
see
and that
the
sort of thing. And that's
the
when we got the
orange
idea to have
and
her
the
sort of
and the
camp
gray
out
metal
by
and
a window, and she would fire out the window.
the darker
and, you know,
cloth
let you know if she
parts.
saw any hunters or soldiers out that
And
window.
obviously the yellow lambda.
If the player started to spend time at that window, she would find another one to go be at.
Like those are important things. The HEV suits, so obviously they would keep that for any
trying
sequel.
to create this final fight in episode
It'd be
2.
really thinking about all the upgrade stuff that you can see in like the code for HLX. I'm really excited about the idea of them in making a Mark 6 or like a Mark 5 that you can modify to basically turn into a Mark 6.
Reminded me of
Like,
ATAS in
it'd be so cool.
Empire Strikes Back. And of course we wanted something fresh because, you know, just rocketing a ton of Striders wasn't going to be be a bit repetitive after a while. So that's when we started collaborating, talking about the Magnuson device and like.
Oh my goodness, this is so weird looking.
So that's
It's
when
cool,
we
but it's
started
so
collaborating.
weird. That's so interesting. So that's like, that's where the helicopter launch pad is, right next to where the warehouse is where Eli
Talking
dies.
about the Magnuson device and like
Yeah.
the hunters and like how would those all come together to make this sort of an overwhelming 25, 30
That's what I hate
minute
about late
battle
2000s, early
set piece.
2010s mountain ranges in video games. It feels so real that it's uncomfortable to look at. Yeah. I think Valve made it
The
look fine
citizens
in
and
retail.
the hunters,
But I know
and
what you're
to a
talking
lesser
about in
extent
other
the
games.
Strider are all secretly in cahoots to create this like tension, because like what we always wanted was like, gotten the Magnuson device on the last guy. Are you going to be able to shoot it? Oh my God, the rocket's going to be destroyed, and then like boom, you hit it, so that when everyone comes out running, you really feel heroic.
You have the car and you have a big space and you're not.
Yeah, this is
guided
like
anyway. You have to go and take care of this
such a
threat in a way that you
like
think is best.
like one of the best parts of
I think
episode 2, other than
it pays
the
off. It makes the player
the
feel like,
antlion
you know,
caves.
I did this myself. You know, I wasn't guided by a level designer at all because we give them so many options. Right? We have.
Yeah.
You can kill the hunters with driving the car into them. You can pick up a log and throw at them. You can pick up a Magnuson device and throw it too soon, and they'll shoot it down. You have to learn. Oh yeah, I have to kill the hunters first. You can use rockets to kill the hunters. Like you have options, and you have time and you have space, but we dial the tension and the pacing up pretty slowly over time.
It is pretty cool. All the kind of cinematic destruction stuff that happens in there.
It was so hideously faked because basically we would send a Strider who would do that sort of the low scuttling run, and he would just sit there and wait, just staring at this building until the player could see the Strider plus the building.
Oh really? I did not know that. That would make sense though, why it's
We
always
dial
like in
the
view.
Tension and the pacing up pretty slowly.
Because
over
that would make
time.
sense, because
The playtests
sometimes
we like the most.
if they didn't do that, you'd go to where a building was at some point while it's being destroyed, and by the time you get there, it's not it's not in the process of being destroyed. It's just like already there. So it is cool that they made it more cinematic by having it happen directly in front of you instead of being like, oh, it happened while I wasn't looking. That sucks,
And then the
you
last
know.
Magnuson device goes off and then he's done.
Mark 6 is the final upgrade to a customizable Mark 5 would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Like people were feeling
Like Kleiner
left and
going
right,
like,
and
well, the
the
Mark
team-
5
the
has
team
come a
was
long
falling
way.
from
Let me give you
massive cut.
a new look or something like that. It'd be sick.
And
It's so interesting to think about, like, how would Valve design a Mark 6? Because I feel like anytime anybody's ever made a Mark 6 design, it doesn't look right. You know, it looks, you know, very, very fan-made. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't match the design philosophy of neither Half-Life 1 or Half-Life 2. It's either so close to Half-Life 2, where it's still kind of just the Mark 5, or it's so far away that it looks like it's like a different game. Like they're referencing an HEV suit in a different game by making one of their own in that style. That's what the Mark 6 ends up looking like whenever fans make it. So I wonder
arc of 3, of course,
how Valve would
because
approach
that's
it.
just how you think of stories in
Because
those terms.
everybody who seems to have
And then you want
tried,
a high point to come at the end of the second
has it
one,
look
and
weird.
Gabe at one point saying, "Who's the important character you're going to kill?" I'm like, "Lamar is going down. This is going to be it. Like I want episode 2 to end with Lamar floating into space and like everyone cries, and Gabe's like, that's not good enough."
The episodes were, a lot of that was an experiment on like, what's the right amount of episode? Episode 2 was longer than episode 1 and bigger, and people liked that better. But
it also took longer.
It took longer to make, and people didn't like it as much as they liked Half-Life or Half-Life 2.
Well, that's not true later on, because I think episode 2 is a lot of people's favorites at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
So by saying episode, are we solving a lot of problems here, or are we just making a sideways trade-off? You know, I think that's maybe the way I felt about it.
Even into episode 3, still don't know what that would have been if we built it.
Whoa. This is new. This has to be. So there's multiple ships down there. What? I can't believe they're even showing this, because I would have thought they would hold on to this until they at least released HLX or whatever. Wow. So that's interesting. There's more than one ship in this concept art. I'm guessing this one's like the Borealis, but what's up with that? And I guess the Combine would have captured it or something at some point. That's
Because
insane.
It hadn't been built.
Man, what? Is that like Gordon there holding like a shotgun or something? That is sick. Oh my goodness.
That was the
I'm
feeling
so
of
annoyed that it took so long for us to get these, but wow. These, whatever these things are, these clamps seem to be very consistent
excitement
across
of
these.
something I can't even imagine is going to happen as a team.
Oh my gosh. The Combine tech over here, using the surrounded. Oh, and the. Ah, this is so
I was
cool.
not like imposing like a top down.
Oh my gosh. Seems like they weren't exactly sure what they wanted the Borealis to look like when you finally found it. Well, the Combine tech, the way they have it attached, seems to be different in every depiction.
Are very important.
Oh my. Yo. Yeah, and the idea of like it possibly just appearing in a block of ice, because like it's like, well, it could appear in the air or somewhere safe, but it also could appear in such like a, you know, a spot that doesn't work. That is awesome. I love that. It's like they cut out the blocks of ice by piece just so that they could, you know, get to it.
Tail, you know, it's like, oh, we have.
This Combine tech models. What are these? These look like some kind of like I guess like some kind of Combine rail car, or I don't know what that is.
Like, how do we use? What kind of story can we?
Interesting. So I wonder, and this is like a submarine more like. It's got a Lambda on it. This artwork is insane. Who are all these characters? Like, is this like Gordon and Alex, and then like, I don't know, these some rebels? Or is these two Gordon and Alex, and these are rebels? Or are all of these rebels?
What do we do with these now?
It's so interesting.
Well, I worked on episode 3.
Heard about White Sand Project. Someone data mined files regarding new stuff related apparently to Half-Life. Yeah. They didn't want to damage anything important to the Borealis, I'd imagine, yeah.
And I was working on this gun called the Ice Gun that basically...
Oh, this is the thing I briefly spotted on Twitter.
Let you create amorphous shapes out of ice. So you could like raise a little ice wall in front of yourself.
Oh my, that's so cool.
It would be attached to the floor, and then the Combine soldiers could shoot holes in it, and it would shatter and break like, kind of like glass, I guess. So that was the primary mode of you could build ledges for yourself to get.
Oh my goodness, they made the glue gun from Prey before Prey was even a thing. And the ice looks really good. That looks really good.
You know, cliff faces. It had another.
Oh, Valve, please release this. Please release like this code, like whatever code was used to make this, so we can play with it.
Like a,
or
kind of
something.
like a Silver Surfer mode.
If not, at least put it in HLX, man.
Where
like,
you would extrude the ice in front of yourself and then run along it.
Like, what? Dude. That would add so much to the movement in Half-Life.
And use it to.
Oh man, and there's like there's a
yourself.
What
and,
is that?
And run along it. And
what is that?
Use it to.
What is that? You guys not gonna explain whatever gun that was? That's completely new. I can't even begin to speculate what that is. It just looks so strange. It's got 20 ammo. And it doesn't seem like it has like a smaller ammo count, so it doesn't have like backup ammo. So I'm guessing it's got like one cartridge or something.
Use it to
interesting
cross gaps, go over chasms and things like that. What else?
Respawn 17 actually released it, or they did it first. That's fair. That's fair. Deadlock Ice Path, yeah.
What do we have? It was set in the Arctic because it was.
What? The Combine freezing, and it froze his ragdoll, so he falls over, like frozen.
Go over chasms and things like that. What else do we have? It was set in the Arctic.
Dude, this is making me sad because we don't have this. This is what could have been.
Because it was around.
I feel like Valve was like coping when they're like, "Oh, this isn't cool enough to. This isn't like awesome enough to release as a sequel." Like, come on, guys, you had something started at least.
Borealis.
I remember the little blobby squishy.
Like what?
Oh yeah, Brian.
I mean, the physics on that are a bit buggy, but if they polish that, like what?
I was working on the.
That's
the blob.
insane.
So we had the.
Were they bringing the blobs back? And they're in the they're in the Mossman recording room when she's talking about the Borealis, and you're fighting the blobs in there. What? Sign is kind of similar to Glunga. I don't know. I think it's kind of different.
Oh yeah, Brian was working on the blobs.
Oh, and blogs. They look even cooler than we did before, and they're like absorbing things and bringing them with them.
Blobby, squishy.
Oh yeah, Brian was working on the blobs. So we had the
it's like
the ISO surfaces that we ended up using in Portal for the paint. So we had that as an enemy. It was a blob.
This is the most advanced we've seen them.
And it could change its shape, and you could choreograph its shapes.
This is the coolest stuff in the entire documentary so far, and they're gonna show so little of it because look how close we are to the end.
Some content tools.
It's absorbing the head crowns.
And then it could also split into little.
That looks so good, though.
Blobs.
It's weird seeing something that looks that advanced in Half-Life 2. I mean, I know Half-Life 2 has a lot of cool stuff, but like, what?
That could. They were almost like little head crabby things, but they were.
It's funny that they're just putting them in Ravenholm.
Around.
What the heck? Thanks, Bob, for showing me this at the end of the 2-hour video. Yeah.
And we're doing all
it's definitely a
kinds of stuff with
reward,
that.
that's
It
for
could
sure.
pass through grates.
You know, you could get more gameplay.
That
out
looks
of
so
something where
good.
You had maybe a couple of creatures with simpler behaviors.
Oh yeah.
And then you would spend time like combining.
That would be terrifying. It's just being able to go through things that you can't, like jump through small like window gaps and through grates. Valve, bring this back in some way, shape, or form, please.
And combining them with.
You're telling me this couldn't have worked as an enemy?
Game mechanics.
How? Why not?
Was never the boss of anything. It was always the
and like falling through the fence stuff, like using those to, get away from it.
story was never the boss of anything.
How does that?
It was always. Oh man. We worked on a peer-to-peer thing. We were.
What is that? These things, although they look cool, that doesn't look very Combine tech, but this big arm thing with the birds flying under it for scale, that looks insane.
We're all gonna, what can we do? What do you think would be cool?
It was still a collection.
We've seen that
of, like,
before.
Playable.
Not seen this. Dude. This is so cool. I hope they also just post the HD scans of all these
levels
somewhere.
in no particular order.
Because these are just
and
these
a
are
collection
man, if nothing else, these are great like wallpaper backgrounds. Like I'd love to have these just swapped through as my home screen wallpaper like for the rest of the year. This is sick. These are all
of
awesome.
story beats and story concepts, and we were still like
I'm seriously gonna screenshot these if they don't upload them and just put them as my wallpaper background.
in another 6 months we would have had a critical mass
Dude.
of like
Like even if this wasn't like such a far jump from Half-Life 1 to Half-Life 2, from Half-Life 2 to Episode 3 or whatever, or Episode 2 to Episode 3, uh, it would, like, I don't think people would be nearly as disappointed as, like, Valve thinks they would be.
mechanics.
Like, maybe
and
I'm
then
just
start-
on that, like Copium, like, how everybody, whenever they see the Half-Life 2 beta stuff at first, it's like, oh, that looks like really awesome, but in practice it doesn't work. Like maybe that's the case, but I'm seeing the gameplay, and the gameplay looks like it works to me. You know,
putting them in a
you
timeline.
know, concept.
I think
What? The light shafts coming through the ceiling, and I don't know who this is, but it's probably like Gordon or something. And I could be tripping, but that looks like a Combine sniper on his back. Like the rifle that Alex uses to shoot zombies in Episode 2.
Probably a year and a half.
So cool.
Easily, you know, depending on
This looks like a Combine ship. Is this a Combine ship that they use over water?
how ambitious
Dude.
we got. Could have been, you know.
What? I need Half-Life 3 to be... See, when some of the code in Half-Life HLX in the code leaks describes Half-Life 3 as being semi-open world, this is what I imagine. So when other people are being like, oh, open world, that doesn't fit Half-Life. Oh, open world, I don't know if that'll work. But first of all, they said semi-open world, so it's going to be at least somewhat, you know, straightforward focused. When I think semi-open world, I think like environments like this massive. Like this reminds me, like I played Halo Reach the other day, and you can see so far off in the distance, and you can see a bunch of things happening, like all these aliens and human soldiers like fighting off in the distance, and it was like some of the coolest looking environments I've ever seen. And when I think semi-open world, I think like this. Like I want to see this in a Half-Life game. You know? I'm tired of Half-Life Alyx where it's like the first half of the game you're walking through basements. I need to see open environments where Combine are flying off in the distance, and there's the Borealis there, and whatever that gigantic massive Combine tech thing is in the background, like what the heck even is that? Linear but open, exactly. So like, you know, you can do a side thing here or there, but ultimately you'll go on a straightforward path, or you can even ignore those side things. But most importantly, everything feels massive, like it's substantially bigger than you. Like Half-Life, I think what Half-Life 3 needs to be different, needs to be bigger. You know, Half-Life 1, it mostly took place inside Black Mesa. It was inside a building the whole time. Half-Life 2, you know, took place about half indoors, half outdoors. Like indoors, it's like Nova Prospect, some buildings inside City 17, the inside of the Citadel, but I had some open places like the coast, or like, you know, somewhat a little bit indoors and outdoors in Ravenholm, and then Street Wars, and then Half-Life Alyx, although it gave us a lot of basements and underground stuff. Okay, that's some of that's kind of new, like more underground stuff in the Zen infestation, and I appreciate those things. And then some world building stuff, like here's what a zoo would look like if it was overtaken by like antlions and zombies and Combine and all that stuff. And then introducing like more like, oh, here's what City 17 looked like back before. And then I feel like what Half-Life 3 could do now is like mostly focus on the open world stuff and only having the interior stuff be in the actual Borealis itself. And then make everything so large scale. And that's how I feel like they could make it bigger than all of the previous games combined. But still put you on that linear path so it still feels like a Half-Life game. The screenshot load is just like they seem to be cooking with the code leaks at HLX, but please, I need them to cook like this. I just, this is the way to go, in my opinion. Let me look at the comments real quick, like the chat. Most immersive sims are semi-open world, yeah. Like Prey 2017, that's like a single player linear experience, but it's, I mean, you can go a bunch of branching paths. Although that one has multiple endings, so that's kind of different. That's not quite the same, but you know. Postal 2, that's pretty open, but it's still got a, I mean, I don't even think that has multiple endings, but you know, games like that.
You know, 2.5 more years. Yeah.
Probably it's hard to be a lot less than 2 years.
Yeah. I think we were 6 months in on it when we moved to Left 4 Dead. I don't know. We were moving at a pretty brisk pace too.
I thought that we needed to go much bigger on episode 3 or do something else, because I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, but element fatigue. I think we had really explored a lot of what made sense in the Half-Life universe and setting.
Arcane was building a Ravenholm game, and
oh, they're actually talking about this. Okay, let's see what they have to say, because from what I understand it, Valve was like bored of Half-Life 2, and they're like, yeah, stop working on this. Even though Arcade was very interested on finishing it.
Having trouble doing cool new stuff with this tool set. And like, if those guys can't figure out a bunch of cool stuff to do with this,
That is not what Arcane said. Arcane was not, as when Arcane was doing their documentary, they said that they were really excited on working on it, and all the stuff they showed was like, of course it's not like the most new stuff, but they were bringing in like new types of puzzles, like the zombies, you know, although not headcrab zombies. Like if I was Valve, I would just be like, no, keep them headcrab zombies, because introducing them as regular zombies is kind of like weird. It doesn't really make sense for consistency's sake. But from what I understand from them is like they were excited, they were moving along with the project just fine, and then Valve's like, nah, we want you to cancel it. So I'm kind of interesting. Okay. Get out! Alright. Anyway. Yeah.
I think we're running out of.
It's interesting.
Episode 3 is coming along. It's like, well, what's the new big thing here? It's got to be bigger than all the stuff we just did. You know, even episode 2, and it's like, oh my god, you know, it just becomes.
Are we allowed to cry in this documentary? That's what I want to know.
Left 4 Dead needed kind of an all-hands-on sort of an effort to.
Well, at least Left 4 Dead was really good.
And so we put down
sideshow or whatever.
Help Left 4 Dead, and it was.
So I'm glad those got done
really
at least, even if
shipping schedule.
Episode 3
required a lot
kind of
of
got canned in the middle of it, so
to get out the door, and it was worth it. I mean, it was.
Yeah, Left 4 Dead came out.
Left 4 Dead came out great, but it took long enough And this is the tragic and almost comical thing about it, was it took long enough that then by the time we considered going back to episode 3, the argument was made like, well, we missed it. It's too late now. You know? And we really need to make a new engine and, you know, to continue the Half-Life series and all that. And now that just seems, in hindsight, so wrong.
Yeah.
You know, we could have definitely gone back and spent 2 years to make episode 3.
And you can't get lazy and say, oh, we're moving
2 years to
What are these? Man.
make episode 3.
And you
The giant combine tech structures, man.
can't get lazy
These
and
are
say,
so cool.
oh, we're moving the story forward.
Is this the falling helicopter before it crashes?
That's copping out
That's
of
new.
your obligation to gamers, right? Yes, of course they love the story. They love many, many aspects of it. But sort of saying that your reason to do it is because
Like, what even is this? I don't even know what it is, but I want it, you know?
people want to know.
But
what
I want it
happens
now.
next. You know, we could have shipped it. Like, it wouldn't have to do it. Yes, of course they love the story. They love many, many aspects of it. But sort of saying that your reason to do it is because people want to know what happens next. You know, we could have shipped it. Like, it wouldn't have been that
Combine train or something.
hard. You know, the failure was, my personal failure was being stumped. Like, I couldn't figure out why doing episode 3 was pushing anything forward.
But yeah, I mean, some of those people made Left 4 Dead 2 and then Portal 2. So
Yeah, we did other things instead.
It's not like
Borealis
that
Interior?
choice
No,
would've been
Borealis
pretty-
is not that big.
Right.
in terms of the players.
Borealis
they
is
may
like
have
a
gotten that
cruise
from
ship size at most. It's not like enough to hold like a combine tech structure that's like a mile high or something like
Giving
that.
up something else.
Yeah, so it's hard to say.
But a lot of us have been doing Half-Life for 8+ years.
We saw a bunch of really compelling reasons to go explore more multiplayer-based projects too, because not only just what customers were doing, but internally, you know, we found ourselves wanting to play a lot of multiplayers.
It sounds silly to say it because we're a relatively big company that has a bunch of stuff, but we're not that many people. There's 300 something people here, and so we're working on a bunch of different projects, and it's like, you know, people are passionate about Portal, people are passionate about TF, people are passionate about Left 4 Dead, and
I really
Half-Life,
want that.
You know, people are passionate about Portal. people are
Half-Life 2 PC, Combine Tech PC, man, they need to like re-release that. I want that.
about TF, people are passionate about Left 4 Dead and Half-Life, and you know, CS and Dota.
When they do the raising the bar like 1 and 2, I am getting those. I am not gonna miss that. I felt annoyed for missing out on pre-purchasing Half-Life Alyx because then I didn't get all the cool CS2 stuff when I got interested in it. But now I'm not gonna make that mistake again. I'm not gonna pass up on raising the bar, you know.
I mean, there's a lot of things there, and you know, I also work on our hardware.
I love
so
Half-Life
I've
too
worked on
much
Steam
to
Deck and the original
be
Steam
like,
controller and Tiny
I don't
Bit
know.
on VR. Unfortunately, for any decision we make, somebody is going to be.
Why
Tiny Bit on.
are those
So I work on our
controllers
hardware, so
labeled
I've worked on
character
Steam Deck
names?
And the original Steam controller and
Oh, so these are like prototypes for your Steam controllers? That's kind of cool.
Tiny Bit.
That's a really
on
weird
VR.
design, though. That one's more closer to I think the retail one. Although I think they ended up replacing that thumbstick with the thing on the sensor on the other side.
Unfortunately, for any decision we make, somebody is going to be unhappy, but hopefully we're making a bunch of people happy with the choices we do make.
If it weren't for the episodes, there'd be no such thing as Dota. And I know that sounds really weird, but it was the things
They should have never made the episodes.
that we learned in developing the episodes that led to, you know, Team Fortress, to more rapid updates.
I think everybody that worked on Half-Life misses the working on that thing, but it's also hard not to be like, man, I've seen every way that you can fight an antlion or you know, whatever, and so you want to like you know, get some space away from it until you can come back to it with fresh eyes.
Probably the weirdest gamepad designs, yeah.
It was easy to think about.
Some people like
VR
those
games
Steam
with
controllers. I've never
Half-Life
tried it, but
because that was a big technological innovation.
it'd be cool if they kind of brought it back
A core reason for that product's existence, and
kind of
I
like
think,
what they made
one
for
of
the Steam
things
Deck.
we have internally tended to attach to the Half-Life IP is innovation. Gameplay innovation is oftentimes enabled by a technological innovation. Clearly, there was a ton in Half-Life 1 and 2, and so yeah, it's an interesting challenge moving forward to like think about what that means for future Half-Life stuff for sure.
The ending of Half-Life Alyx is somewhat a self-critical realization, so that was super satisfying, and all credit to the people who are specifically involved in that decision and those sets of designs. I think that Half-Life represents a tool we have and promises made to customers to capitalize on innovation and opportunities to build game experiences that haven't been involved previously. And I think that there are no shortage of those opportunities facing us as an industry right now.
Hopefully what that means when he says that is like, hey, well, now we have the opportunity to make...
Fiddlesticks. What now?
that you have the opportunity to make like a proper Half-Life 3 now, because now we have the technology to continue innovating. They continue innovating Half-Life games. Okay, now we look at these. Look at all these, and then I'm gonna stop streaming because I'm not gonna have enough time to do the commentary nodes, and I'd rather start that out fresh on a stream than start it here. Especially since I do have to work tomorrow. But when I'm done with work, I will definitely be doing that. Yeah, because it's 8:30 already, and I'd like to be at least getting ready for bed by 10. The frame rate is crazy. Gameman clearly wants to push some kind of innovation releasing games. Yeah, and although the wait for like a Half-Life 3 is really annoying, I do kind of like respect their concept of like every Half-Life game has to have something in it that like makes it so anytime anybody makes a new game after it, there's some kind of inspiration from it in some way, or like maybe not a direct inspiration, or maybe something that's inspired by something else that's inspired by something else that was inspired by Half-Life 2. And so, you know, it being a domino effect for other games, I think is I think it's cool that whenever they do want to make a Half-Life game, it's because of that reason. Like Half-Life Alyx came out, and that was an innovation on VR. Like, there was no VR game that high quality, that high detail, and that ran that well until they released it. So that was an innovation by itself, and all the stuff that they put in there that no other VR game has. And now there's a bunch of other VR games that are, though, not as big, and some of them are very underwhelming, or we're like, oh, these are good ideas that Valve made. So I kind of respect... Yeah, Valve Paradox. Yeah, I do respect. Yeah, even though the time it takes between games is like enormous now. The commitment is to making every Half-Life game an innovation to be something completely new and fresh is respectable. So I will give them that. I just wish... I don't know. I wish they had the motivation to do something like that earlier. But, you know, you gotta be... These things, they take time. Free TV. I think we've only seen, like, that little bit of the walking by. I don't even know if we've seen like this much. So I'll skip over the parts I remember seeing from the trailer. It's so weird because it's kind of just Half-Life 1, but with like slightly higher quality models. It kind of looks like a Half-Life expansion in a way, you know? So it'd be nice if they showed a whole video like this of the episode 3 stuff, like with the ice walls. Crown Man with the job. It is what it is. Watch the last few seconds of the documentary, there's more hidden info. What? What info? Because I'm pretty sure.
Oh, fiddlesticks. What now?
Created by Poor Valve by Secret Tape. Okay. What is Bro talking about? Bro saying nothing. There is no last few seconds. Anything before that I've already seen. Bro, getting me sidetracked. Here's the boar. The boar ass. The boar ass. See, like, that's how big the Borealis... Well, that's probably... I think, realistically, the Borealis would be even bigger than that. But, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they couldn't fit, like, a whole Combine Tech giant structure in there, you know? The pit crushed audio, man. Whoa. Goodness, the audio. I'm gonna turn that down because that is so loud. Game ran like crap. Here's the cremator. Gas mask citizens with working eyes. The very unflattering Barney Calhoun and Alex. Your nose is so pointy. She kind of got that low poly Lara Croft look going on. Fit check. There's Odell. Well, he looks more like a retail model, to be honest. I kind of like the blue lenses, not gonna lie. I don't think they quite fit, but I like them. Which is probably why they ended up putting them on Combine Soldiers instead. Because they fit better on them. With the darker blue helmets. Was that a synth crab? A crab synth? It is. I didn't even know. Well, I guess they would have crab synths back then because they had concept art for it. I hope those come back. I mean, they showed themselves in Half-Life 2 for a brief second. And dark and gritty. Here's the Strider. It looks like the Strider 3D models looked like that for a long time. The facial expressions are bugging out a little. Yeah, imagine to have Half-Life 2 released with facial expressions like that. Probably wouldn't have aged as well, but the eye movements look pretty good still.
on its way, but I'm not waiting around for it. Hazard suit on. Sorry, Mr. Freeman, I got explicit orders not to let you through without your hazard suit on.
Oh, it's just Half-Life 1 voice lines.
Maybe help is on its way, but I'm not waiting around for it. We gotta get topside. Oh.
Barney analog harder.
Yep, all that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, not Lost Media anymore. Oh, that's cool. Loading screen with that old Gordon design. Man, they're really beating the crap out of that Combine Soldier. Antline guard that smells you. Oh, I'm sure that inspired the the chase in episode 2. That'd be so scary having him lean in like that. I'm surprised they didn't do that for episode 2, having him lean into like the little crevices you hide under or whatever. He got that on. This is 30 minutes long. Let's skip through this a bit, because... Oh yeah, it's like that... That, one screenshot. Seems like Half-Life 2 was gonna be a lot more open, maybe. Or maybe it's just because it's the demo or something. That looked like Lost Coast in the distance. Is that the depot? Like what used to be Nova Prospect? That's cool. This looks a lot more open than retail Half-Life 2. There's no water like on the coast or sand traps that are keeping you from going very far. And beta, the Combine Thumpers. And the Combine tech looked more like I don't know, more standard, gritty, industrial metal. Dark and gritty. The sound effects are like maybe a little too punchy. I actually think that the design for the sound effects for it shooting is actually kind of sick. Oh yeah, so it's a beta version of the... I'm gonna turn that down, that's so loud. I want to use this grenade launcher instead of a rocket launcher. It's a lighthouse part. Okay, I won't lie, the way it falls down there is actually so awesome. Like, dude. Like, I do like the popping explosions before he explodes and then all the debris falls down. But if a couple times they'd fall down like this, like, I think there's a part in episode 1 where that happens, like near the hospital when he's like falling, it's like falling through the roof or something like that, and it hasn't like exploded. It kind of does it there. But like, man, that looks so awesome, dude. Can't wait till we get to the part where Barney's like, remember when Black Mesa? Remember when we thought Black Mesa was the worst they could get? I wish they kept that line in, to be honest. The footstep sound effects are kind of silly. So now there's enough footage here for a lot of people to, like, even if they don't release this, like the files for these, for people to recreate them better. I'm sure this is a lot of stuff. This is a lot of fuel for like mods like Raising the Bar Redux to be like, oh, this was Valve's approach to it before they changed stuff. And now they have like a clearer look at it instead of like, you know, more bits and pieces. I mean, this is still like bits and pieces. It's not like the whole game front to end, but you know, you get at least a couple sections where there's some consistency, you know. There's Kleiner's lab. This is gonna be the one with Court. Now Kleiner's there. Not gonna lie, I actually kind of like the yellow and the old Combine Soldiers. I kind of do too. But I think I still prefer the retail versions. Oh, this is before they had the proper magnifying glass effect. Yeah, the 5 frames per second physics. Still cool though. Oh, there's the Borealis. Yeah, see, that's more like the size I was thinking of. The lighting on that is very atmospheric. I like that. I'm thinking about, like, what are fast head crabs doing on a boat in the middle of the ocean? But I suppose Combine could have thrown a head crab canister out there or something. Laying it on the dock, or I don't know. We're still using Half-Life 1 sound effects for zombies. Oh yeah, and there's the stalkers. As cool as these are, I feel like these would be more annoying as enemies than fun. I feel like lasers are kind of cool in concept, but maybe not as fun to fight against in practice. I know that from fighting Bebop and Deadlock. Isn't the Borealis gonna have the Zactic things on it? I don't know. Oh, those look like the hazard barrels in Half-Life Alyx. That's interesting. Yeah, whole dang gameplay recording of the... I mean, it doesn't look too small for combat. Maybe a bit more I don't know, slightly more claustrophobic than most levels, but I mean, it's not that different from that one level in Fall of Freeman, I think, where you're kind of underground. Interesting. Interesting. I don't think I remember seeing any of those canisters that like move around like a lot when you shoot them before exploding. I don't even remember if that was a thing in retail. Street Wars. Cool looking area. I like the sunlight coming through the buildings here. There's the old Beta Citadel. I really like that design, to be honest. Oh, interesting. That looks closer to the Strider cannon in Half-Life Alyx than it does to Half-Life 2. Like, really close. Huh. I still prefer the warp effect that they have. I don't think they have that in Half-Life Alyx for some reason. I think that was like iconic to the Strider's cannon, the warp effect. Wow. Yeah, it'd be really nice to see the Striders destroy buildings more. I guess that's still like scripted, but it looks dynamic, you know. Cool. And it crawling under the building is sick. Is this a thing where they make you, like, where you can ride the Strider or something? Because I remember that being a thing in the beta, where you could ride a Strider. Oh, here's the... Oh, that's what leads directly? What? So this is right before the actually, I'm surprised they didn't talk very much about the what's it called? The Hydra? I don't think we've ever seen like the whole sequence. Oh, is this before Alyx has the Merle Dandridge as the VA? Yeah, because that's definitely the Hydra map. Dude. Very cool. Oh, here's what is it, City 24? Or whatever. I still like how this looks. It's a really cool map. This is the map that they used on like the... What is it? It's like the back promotional art for like the Half-Life 2, even though it never actually shows up in game. I think even in the leaked versions of this map, we hadn't seen all the citizens doing all that stuff. Just kind of just empty and them just walking around. That's pretty cool. Are we gonna hear the one cut track? Oh, there's the original Combine Elites. Yeah, I mean they're kind of cool, but I do not think those synths fit in Half-Life, so I'm kind of glad they ended up removing them and replacing them with Combine Elites. Because they look. I don't want to say they look too weird for Half-Life, because that's not really a thing, but they don't fit. Oh, that's cool. Oh, what? Oh, that's neat. Oh, here's Ravenholm. We've seen this. In fact, this is probably the most we've probably seen the footage exactly as is for Ravenholm. Surprised that it's not showing the part where you have the logs hit them. Alright, here's the last one. It might be this one, because we didn't even get to the part where...
We've been rather busy in your absence, Mr. Freeman.
Can't see him without thinking of the oh yeah, the hunt down the Freeman synths are so ugly. So I'm pretty sure most of this is stuff we have actually seen, right? And I think some of these maps actually leaked. If not all of them. Yeah, because here's all the Ravenholm stuff I was talking about. Like, yeah, that thing. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. There were two places that led up to entering the Hydra. There's this one, and then there's the other one where you jump into it straight from the city. So that's kind of interesting how that happened. So at least now we got an HD version of this. Remember when we thought Black Mesa was the worst we could get?
We thought Black Mesa was as bad as it could get.
So cool. And he's holding the Beta SMG, the MP5. MP5K, I think, maybe? Nova Prospect doesn't seem all that different, to be honest. Oh yeah, and here's this part, but a little more polished. I don't know if I've seen this, or if I don't know. Him walking out like that is so cool. Destroyer. I love that he sounded like a stormtrooper. I guess he did, yeah. The guy that got killed by the Hydra. Oh yeah. You're not supposed to be here. Oh, you can actually see these images better. Couldn't really tell what they were. I couldn't really tell what they were before. But those are pictures of the Hydra. Map, G-Man. Creepy G-Man pictures. And the horse. Peter. The horse is here.
Well, well, isn't this just like old times?
Oh, I guess he's doing a different voice line. That's still cool though. Nice. Very cool. Oh man. Very good day. A very good day for Half-Life fans. And beta fans. I know beta fans are going mental right now. The synth horse from Half-Life Alyx is here. Okay, so there are commentary nodes for Half-Life 2 now. They weren't there before. So I guess there's another reason to play Half-Life 2, but let's see, what time is it? Yeah, I want to get ready for bed soon. So we will do that tomorrow instead. Oh, but that was a lot to unpack. Yeah, I can't wait to see everybody talk. I know everybody's talking about it on Twitter right now, and so I can't wait to check that out. So I'm 100% saving these as backgrounds. All of these down here. There they are. Like this, that's gonna be my wallpaper for a while. And then one of these is gonna be my phone wallpaper. I kind of already had like one of the episode like this as my wallpaper for a bit. But I think this one is gonna be my new wallpaper. That's like so cool. Wait, did we see more of the free TV things? Yeah. Yeah, there was a whole like at least 10-minute yeah, the SIGGRAPH 2000 demo, 16 minutes of footage from that. So, awesome. Okay. Well, I think I'll end the stream here, and then tomorrow we'll do the commentary nodes. I think they said there was like 3 hours of like commentary node stuff, so that'll be awesome. I can't wait. So, thank you guys for watching though. I will see y'all later.